Oh, just had a yawn right as the show starts. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good seeing the chat. Everybody seems like they're having a good day today in the chat. Welcome, watcher. Welcome, everybody else, to episode 443, the Council on Future Conflict. My name is Scott, the proprietor of the Future Conflict channel, and today we're talking about some shifts in policies and what that'll mean based on what we're seeing from the Trump administration. And also, we're talking about the deep state and why it hates it. Do I have the wrong mic on? Hold on a second.
Maybe. The mic does sound a little bit different. I'll pan there for you a bit. Yeah.
Wrong mic.
All right. That's much better, right?
Oh, way better.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Yes. Get out of the. Yes. It's literally for some reason, it wants to. I restarted my computer earlier, and when it does that, for some reason, it has about a 50-50 chance of picking up the default mic on
the case mic or whatever.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's I have no defense. I just take the money and run.
I don't think that's an officer thing, to be fair. I've done that about 1,000,000 times.
I know, right? I know. Everybody needs a good, S6 or G6 to keep them straight, and I don't have one of those. All right, guys. In fairness, Watcher didn't say anything to me, guys, so I'm just saying.
Well, if we're being honest about it, for some reason, when you were in the other room, it wasn't doing that. It was only once we swapped over to this one.
Yeah, that's true.
But welcome this morning, guys.
Yeah, it's glad to have you all. Glad you could be here. I was not aware of anybody being absent on purpose today, but. As of right now, it's just me and Watcher. That's fine. We can have a good show with just the two of us. We have had good shows, just the two of us before, so I'm okay with that.
Heck yeah.
Hell, I mean, when I forgot about daylight savings time a couple weeks ago, or was it last week? Like I did the first 20 minutes of the show by myself.
It's been a while since I was impressed.
It's been a while since I've done that.
I ask, how far into prep were you before you were like, oh, they're not ditching me? I forgot about daylight savings time.
It wasn't until I was live on the show when I realized that.
Okay.
I mean, it was like, what is going on? And then somebody in the chat said something about daylight savings time, and I was like, well, that would explain it. And then you popped in about 2 minutes earlier, so.
See. Is sciatica punishing us for Luddite ignorance? Probably.
Fixes all your troubles.
Alt F4.
Yeah.
And just remember, kids, uninstall sys32. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Classic internet trolls aside. Scott, how have you been?
I'm all right, brother. I mean, it's the weather's all right here. It's warmer than it has any right to be, and we got a little rain today. But the problem with the rain in Korea is that at least 50% of the rainstorms leave my car completely coated in dust.
Oh,
now,
gross.
depending on the time of the year, the different colored dust, right? So, if it's a rainstorm in the spring, we get this really heavy pollen kind of coat, right? And then we have yellow dust season when the toxic desert dust from China comes over. But then we have times of the year like now, and it's just pollution from China. And so
smog.
I wiped my finger across my car, because I'm getting these marble, the watermarks and stuff all over the side of my car. And my finger is just black as if I ran it through coal, right? Or something like that. And I was just like, oh, can't be healthy. I mean, the military here in Korea actually has air quality warnings, and when the air quality is really bad, they will literally have all the soldiers do PT. They'll either cancel PT or they'll have the soldiers do PT indoors because it is the air can be legitimately bad.
That's gross,
here.
Yeah,
so.
I think I've heard it said, and I'm probably misquoting here, but I thought I heard it said when China takes a piss, Korea gets its feet wet.
Yeah,
That makes
pretty
sense.
much. Guys, I don't know how you feel about it, Watcher, but I've just been really enjoying a lot of my favorite conservative
Oh my
commentary
God, it's a
shows.
never-ending buffet.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, a guy that I really didn't listen to at all over the last couple of years. I mean, I subscribe to, or not subscribe. I follow him on Rumble, so I'm always seeing clips, and from time to time I'll pick up a clip or something like that. But somebody I've really enjoyed watching since the election has been Steve Bannon, and of course he's been in prison like the summer. So.
Well, not to interrupt the conversation, but Jay Clark does have the right of it here.
Scott learned biology from the same people who teach you to wait. That's it. I mean, it's on my car, man. What are you gonna do?
What you were saying?
Anyway, yeah, what was I saying?
Oh, you were talking about one of the commentator shows that you haven't really watched.
Oh, yeah. So Steve Bannon, I've been listening to Steve Bannon, and man, he has just been absolutely on fire. And that guy is like, he's ready to start no holds barred. He's a fucking blowtorch on the deep state, and he is, him and a couple others, I think, are absolutely going to be ready to break down the doors with the SWAT teams when the pre-dawn raids start to begin against these people.
How involved is he now? I mean,
I think he's connected, but I don't think that he's involved.
Okay. Yeah, listen, all you people saying unleash Bannon, I'm with you there. I'm just my question is just like I knew that he was involved pretty heavily during the first campaign, and then the Democrats came after him and put him in prison for dumb fucking shit. And so since then, I thought there had been some pretty healthy distance between Trump and Bannon, but maybe that's all just for the press.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, so I've just been getting it's between that and I've been listening to Charlie Kirk a little bit. I mean, I don't normally listen to Charlie Kirk for any kind of regular commentary, but the reason why I've enjoyed listening to him is because he seems like he's fairly connected with the Trump people. So
got a bit of an
so he seems to have the inside line on like what on the kind of the pulse on what's going on inside. So I'm just kind of I've been enjoying that.
Well, I just have to say that I have found this new rare kind of guilty pleasure for myself, which is I could legitimately listen to people bash Alan Lichtman all day. It's just glorious. The man's lost his mind and everyone's noticing.
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. I'm hearing news here. I'm hearing that Charlie Kirk actually has a normal sized face. That's what?
His head.
This cannot be true.
I think that's. I love how everybody just absolutely. So there's like two types of people who hate him. There are there are of course the leftists who hate him. And then you've got the people on the right for what I guess I just am not in on like the beef enough to understand.
Neither am I. Yeah.
To understand why people, on the all the right side drama, I don't quite understand all that. Yeah. But I've gotten a kick out of it. I tell you, for my money, he's one of the few commentators that actually has put his money where his mouth is and done something to actually get involved, right? Like the whole with the turning point and the turning point action, kind of going out there and helping with the votes and everything like that. I got to respect that, because that goes beyond just kind of hearing yourself talk and making money off of your opinions,
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like that's, Glenn Beck is kind of like that. He's got his kind of actual community involvement kind of stuff. So, I mean, that seems to be more of a feature on the, like Bongino's, started these, Rumble and what's the other one? Locals. So I mean, so it seems on the right that these people actually get out there and get after it on, doing things other than just talking about it, right?
Yeah, and
I don't know.
weirdly, I think Rumble is an excellent example of one that actually has a chance, strangely, of succeeding. So the problem with social networks usually is that their value and power lies in the users of the network. And so even though YouTube might be terrible, everybody keeps using it, and therefore it still has value. And the issue has always been like what the leftists are trying to do now, actually, is a perfect example. They're all fleeing Twitter and saying, oh, Twitter's a place for a hate monger that installed a fascist. So we have to leave, and we're going to something called Blue Skies, just like when they went to Mastodon.
I mean, but there's like what 10,000 of them on Blue Sky, and so who cares?
And who wants to go to a place where you're guaranteed to hear nothing but shrieking leftist harpies all day?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right.
Look, man, I will say that there is one campaign promise the man has made that he's not even close to keeping at this point, and it's not even funny. And he told me that we would be sick of winning, and I am not yet sick of winning.
Yeah. Well, I think what's interesting about this is how Trump is literally. I mean, I kind of thought that he would be better than the first time, but it would still be kind of like, Trump is gonna, he's not trying to like really come in with a 2x4 and, hacksaw Jim Duggan in the whole place. I figured he'd be more of a baby face coming in, but man, he is absolutely like literally he is cooking the hand grenade off and he's getting ready to throw it into Washington. I mean, you couldn't, when we were talking beforehand, Office of DEI and the Pentagon all say they're going to quit because of Pete Hegseth coming in, right? All of the doctors are leaving Health and Human Services because they heard that that JFK Jr. is coming in. All the lawyers are leaving the Department of Justice because they heard that Gaetz is coming in. I mean, he's literally going to have half the swamp drained by the time these guys take their jobs, so it's kind of hard not to be amazed by they're literally ever since Department of Defense was announced. I know, hacksaw Jim Duggan in 2024 reference. Talk about a deep cut, right? It's like every time a new one comes out, it becomes the worst one ever. I mean, nobody's even thinking about Department of Defense anymore because, that was 48 hours ago when heavens to Murgatroyd. There's been all kinds of crazy stuff that's come out since then. Who can keep up? That's right. Washington can't keep up. I mean, they're like goldfish, right? They get excited by one thing and then they see something else and they've immediately forgotten about the last thing. And so, there's talk that they're going to change instead of just doing one, they're going to do concurrent confirmation hearings, so there will be multiple ones going on at the same time. So they won't like be able just to focus on one and like go histrionically about that because there will be,
have you heard
3 or 4.
Have you heard the strategy though?
What?
They have a golden strategy. If any of these candidates don't see too much objection or looks like they're not going to get confirmed, they have a really fun, interesting thing that they've just allowed themselves to do, which was they've all agreed to recess appointments. And do you know who has the power to send Congress or the Senate on recess? The president.
The president, right. So essentially what can happen is he makes a deal with Johnson to put the House of Representatives in recess, but the Senate won't do it. So then the president comes in and puts everybody in recess.
And then makes all of his recess appointments, who will then stand for what? I think it's like 170 days or something like that.
Yeah. I think he can get as much as 1.5 years out of them.
Yeah, which, I mean, 18 months, baby. That's what they're saying we have. We can buy ourselves more, but we've got 18 months to turn the machine around. And that's why.
Anyway, so let's we got a lot to talk about today, even though it's just the two of us. We don't need a zombie Canadian. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of RFK Jr., honestly. I mean, I like a lot of the things he said with food. The vaccine stuff, I can take it or leave it, right? But the food health stuff, right? I'm kind of, the older I get, and I think I'm coming more around to his point of view, like the anti-seed oil and all that kind of anti-preservatives, making the meat and things like that, kind of freeing the meat to be sold. So exactly right. He's good for health and food, everything else kind of blah. And that's exactly the reason you put him in some place like Health and Human Services. Stay in your lane, buddy. You stay in your lane and you will be fine. Yeah.
As much as, well, I mean, look, I am personally, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you, but there is something to be said for putting guys in charge of government agencies who have personal reason to entirely destroy that government agency. So, well, the Human Services, I think he'll reform, but if we put him in charge of the FDA, I think there wouldn't be an FDA.
Oh, no. I think he'll get rid of the FDA. I think he's going to gut the whole thing. He's going to try. No, I don't trust the science. I just don't know much about it. So it's kind of like, well, what am I going to do, right?
Yeah,
I can't know a lot about everything.
No, I'm with you there 100%, right? Like, okay, I know that the most recent thing that they called a vaccine, which does not meet any definition of a vaccine ever presented up until that point. I know that was garbage, and I'd like to see him go after that. People try to say, hey, that means all of them are garbage. And I don't think that's true, but I do think it's probably true that we need to relook at the whole system we've created where they can't be sued for the things their vaccines do to people. That's got to just fucking disappear.
Yeah. I mean, have you noticed the stocks of the big pharma stocks are all dropping? I thought that was pretty good too.
It's fantastic.
Lost Core 23 for $10 over in the Rumble chat says, Goodings CFC. Hopefully this time Joe won't ruin my life. White pill about my son. I didn't quite understand that last bit, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk a little bit about the German government here in a second. That's as good a transition as I could think of.
It really is.
To go into this first story today. This is from Remix News over in Europe. Support for the AFD. This is the what does that stand for again? Alternative for Germany.
Alternative for Deutschland. Yeah.
Yeah. Support for AFD continues to soar amid calls for election ban by political opponents.
Wait, I have to pause for just a second and say, Why is it that despite all of us elders telling the children that rock and roll is of the devil, that it seems to make them want it more? What is happening? Gee, we've never learned and have never has the establishment learned its lesson.
Well, the interesting thing that I'm seeing here is that AFD is definitely like they're the only ones standing up in a common sense way against this just absolute suicidal policies, immigration policies. I mean, let's be honest. The immigration policies in America are terrible and they need to be fixed. In Europe, it's actually worse. It is actually worse.
In America, it is. Look, and let's be frank. The differences are slightly academic in some ways, but in America, it's not an open border. Wink, nod. Wink, nod. We're only open to very specific types of people. Wink, nod. Wink, nod. Like refugees. It just so happens that we've now broadened the definition of what can make a refugee to the point where literally anyone could be a refugee for almost any reason. But at least it's not what Germany has, which is flat out, would you like to live here? Come live here. That's it.
All right, let me jump into this one here. Amid rising of support, AFDC approval surged to 19.5% in a recent poll. Even the political opponents pushed to ban the party from participating in the upcoming February elections. Yeah, by the way, the German government has collapsed. And was it Schultz or whatever has stepped down, I think.
Yeah.
Let's see. The latest polling conducted by INSA Consular and published by the Bild newspaper places AFD firmly in second place behind the center-right CDU. So get this. There is a center-right party is first. A right-wing party is second. I mean, clearly there is some. I mean, if the center-right people could get off their asses and just realize that the AFD people just want a better Germany. They aren't Nazis, right? Then
I look, I hear you, but
they could run the table with just the two of them.
No, I agree, but look, man, like if you thought American leftists were fast to call something Hitler,
yeah,
I've got news.
Yeah, the rise in AfD support comes at a critical juncture when 112 Bundestag members from across the political spectrum pushing for the party's exclusion from the February 23rd snap election. The motion to ban AfD, citing its anti-democratic nature. Huh? Really? Anti-democratic? Huh? That's ironic that you want to ban the second most popular party. That seems rather anti-democratic to me. Has already been submitted to the Bundestag president with the potential to escalate Germany's constitutional court. If successful, it could bar the party from standing in elections, effectively removing it from the democratic process. Very undemocratic. Proponents of the ban, including figures of the ruling SPD, argue that it is necessary to protect the integrity of the German democracy. However, many AfD supporters and their allies view this as undemocratic efforts. Oddly enough, that they would feel that way. Heaven forbid. Despite these efforts, AfD profiles continue to rise. In the latest polling, party leader Alice Wild emerges as one of the most popular potential chancellor candidates, receiving 17% of support, placing her ahead of both Schultz and Habeck. Schultz is with SPD, which is in charge now, and the Habeck is with the Greens. AfD's growing popularity is particularly pronounced in Eastern Germany. Yeah, because they haven't, they kind of got shocked into the German system, and they still aren't buying all of this stuff. Oddly enough, the East Germans, because they actually experience communism, are very weary with some of the ideas that are coming out of this liberal wing of the German government.
Schmippity here has got a good point. It's actually not anti-democratic because democracy is when the people pick the right party.
That's right. Well, but you remember, democracy is when 51% of the people vote to take the 49% all their stuff.
Correct. Yeah, it's two
and
wolves
so
in a
this,
sheep deciding what's for dinner.
yeah, this is the tyranny of democracy, and it's the reason why we have an electoral college instead of a popular vote. That was actually one of the funniest things to come out of this election is Trump winning the popular vote. I mean, it's not that I'm surprised, honestly, but just, you don't have to listen to this whole carping about the Electoral College for the next 2 years. This is crazy.
Actually, hold
in
on.
my
mind. Stop. We have to say this because I think the best part of Trump winning the popular vote is that all these interstate voter compact blue states that have all said, "Oh, we're going to start voting however the national popular vote goes, not whatever the people who actually fucking elected us to represent them say." They would have had to vote for Trump.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're not hearing anything from them. No interstate voter compact now. No. Hey, Carrie B, last warning. What you're doing is spamming, and if you continue to do it, you will be banned from this chat permanently.
Peter Shay's helicopter tours for $2 says RFK Jr. isn't much of a gum grabber as he is convinced that SSRIs and MAOI inhibitors are turning kids into school shooters. It's not just that. I mean, I think there's maybe some environmental factors there, but ultimately, I think it's just this absolute corruption of American public morality and public culture. I mean, I hate to say it, when you pull God out of the public square, it's shocking how crazy and how bad things go and how quickly it happens.
Yeah. Well, look, former communistically demoralized societies have a hell of a time pulling themselves out of it.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's jump into the next story here. I mean, this is a security and conflict related topic. I mean, this is also the whole point of what we were talking about with why we need a tough border czar like what we get with Homan. Tennessee officials warn Venezuelan gangsters back in all of our major cities. The American people are expressing joy about President-elect Trump's selection of Tom Homan as the incoming border czar to combat Biden-Harris illegal alien invasion at the open southern border, which has been linked to thousands of armed Venezuela prison gangs, Tren de Aragua members storming communities nationwide. Tennessee Bureau of Investigation director in the latest to warn about TDA members taking over his cities. He said the illegal alien criminals have been spotted in all major cities in Tennessee. The local media quoted that who warned about the TDA members have been involved in human trafficking within the state. They're back in all of our major cities, he says. They're running human traffic operations, and that's where they start.
Hey, did we ever give these guys a little primer on like why it's called Tren de Aragua or like who these guys are or anything?
Aragua train.
So it's kind of interesting. So these guys were originally the original gang were assigned to be a union to work on a train in Venezuela. But the funding never came for said train. And so after they all just kind of sat around doing nothing for a while, they decided to form a criminal gang.
So there is a leak from the military here that I'm okay to share this because it's controlled, unclassified information, and because it's in the popular media, it's not classified information. So I don't mind showing this. It's on if you just go down in that story, it's right there. Just open that. This is a Army North's threat advisory. So these come out fairly regularly about protests and other kind of threats to the force that may have some sort of risk to mission. This is from the Protection Directorate Threat Analysis Division. Warning, all information listed in this summary, unless otherwise marked, should be considered CUI, that's controlled and classified information. The originators have granted Army North permission to disseminate the below information to Army North components. Permission to disseminate outside is not... maybe I shouldn't talk. Anyway, the point is it basically just gives the background on the information of what you said. That talks about where they come from, and that it's a Venezuelan gang. It's expanded throughout Latin America and the United States amidst Venezuelan refugee crisis, with the growth of the gang following migration of Venezuelans to host nations. Current global events, monetary gains, and criminal interests may drive the gang to target DoD facilities. And then it shows the tattoos in the picture here. So this is pretty interesting, I thought. I
was muted. So yeah, I just want to say part of what's caused them to spread so quickly and be such a huge threat everywhere is Venezuela being destroyed meant that most of their opportunities that they were having for criminal activity and fundraising enterprises were shut down because nobody has money. And so they decided, hey, it'd be very easy to just sneak aboard these migrant caravans that are going everywhere and then set up shop in these new, much richer host countries which we've been gathering digital intelligence on via social media for a long time. So by the time we have our agents there on the ground, we'll have a target list for them.
Stormy for $5 says, don't forget to hit us up if you want to join the X group for CSC. I am at Stormy's EDC on X. Have a fantastic day and stay safe this weekend. Absolutely.
You know what?
Yes.
Look, hold on. T's got a good point here. They are socialists and they've got a crown. Clearly, this was Keir Starmer.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so I just think it's interesting. We got another graphic here that shows the Tren de Aragua spread across the West. And so you've got all these cities that kind of come, Chihuahua, El Paso, Denver, and then Utah County, Canyon County, Chicago, New York, all coming from Venezuela. It's kind of like not, I wouldn't say the same as, but not dissimilar to how we saw MS-13 come out of, basically a street gang from LA gets deported back to El Salvador and then spreads back into America from their safe haven.
Boy, fair point there from the chat. Gee, if only we had a government agency that was organized and assigned and had cut its teeth going after major criminal gangs and mafias. If only.
If only. Yeah, so I mean, it's this is a good opportunity for us to let's listen to the border czar, what he had to say about this. Just go down a little further. I think we've heard this before on this program, but what the hell? Let's listen to it.
I got a message.
I can listen to this one all day.
As a guy who spent 34 years deporting illegal aliens, I got a message to the millions of illegal aliens that Joe Biden's releasing our country in violation of federal law. You better start packing now. You're damn right. Because you're going home. I got another message. Another message to the criminal cartels in Mexico. You smuggled enough fentanyl across this country to kill 148,000 young Americans. You have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. And that's when President Trump gets back in office. He's going to designate you a terrorist organization.
I'm going to pause for just a second. This is phenomenal. I want to hear the rest of it. But Scott, I think you'll appreciate this more than most. Yes. He's got the most 40K face I've ever seen in real life.
But you know what?
Man, you could literally just take the head and put it on a suit of ceramide armor, and you've got a fucking captain or a librarian.
He's going.
Well, I was gonna say this is what a Cadian general would look like.
Probably true.
Face of the earth. You're done. You're done.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I think I'm looking forward to seeing what he does more than anything else.
Same. The Emperor wills it.
God wills it. All right.
So I see from our next story that we're transitioning over to a topic that many leftists are wondering about. What is Vladimir Putin going to do now that his bosom buddy Trump is back in office?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We were talking before the show. I don't know if it's this obvious, but I think that essentially what we're going to see is grab as much as you can. You know what? Somebody needs to take that video and dress him up in a Cadian outfit, like a digital painting over the top of him, and
you're going home. You're done.
Like the Alex Jones and as a inquisitor.
Well, Alex Jones is almost always a Grey Knight, and it makes total sense.
This next story is indicative, I think, of what we're going to see between now and January in Ukraine. You're going to see a couple things, right? Blinken just announced they're going to send as much money as possible as they can to Ukraine between now and when Trump takes over, because they're worried that Trump's going to pull the plug on that operation.
Which, if they'd ever read literally anything the man has ever written, they'd understand that doesn't really fall into his purview. Would he have preferred we never have gone to war in the first place? Absolutely. Now that we're there, though, what you're going to see is exactly what he says in The Art of the Deal. He is like, if he just said, hey, we're calling it off now, we're pulling all the funds from Ukraine, then they would not be able to reach a settlement that would make him. So what he's going to do instead, most likely, you're probably going to see a surge, in my opinion, even after Trump gets in.
I think what he'll do is he will use the funds for Ukraine as a cudgel in order to beat Zelensky over the head to get him to do what he wants.
Yes, but also he's going to use that as a cudgel to beat Russia over the head. Like, hey, it'd probably be better for you to make a settlement now, because if you don't, we're going to give Ukraine everything they need.
Well, yes, but I think it'll be less of that and more of a. I think Russia's ready to just kind of. I mean, we have said, oh yeah, Russia's got this in the bag because ultimately they have more people and they'll just grind Ukraine. Okay, that may be true, but it would if someday in the near future Russia is standing over the smoking hulk of Kiev, right? It will be at best a Pyrrhic victory, because they will have absolutely. I mean, Russia has lost a shit ton of men.
Very true, and I think a good analogy for what you're trying to say here is that just like a lock is like it's inevitable that a lock will be gone through. Like it's locks keep honest people honest. If you want to get into a room that's got a lock on it, you can find a way to get into that room. The question is about raising the cost, right?
Somebody in over on X says, "Have you guys talked about the bullshit Blinken said?" I have not. I don't know that I just know that he said that they were gonna try to ship as much stuff as possible over to.
Yeah, the only thing I've heard from Blinky was exactly what Scott just said, that they're going to ship basically all discretionary funding that they have to Ukraine between now and the election.
Yeah, I'm looking at my. Oh, good Lord. the random things that pops up in my X feed when I'm looking for something else. All right. I mean, there are just entire channels that are like a modern version of Faces of Death. Yeah, I'm looking and I don't see it. If you can send me a link in that DM to what I'm missing, feel free. Yeah, every dollar we have at our disposal will be pushed out the door to Ukraine between now and January 20th. That's the only thing that I'm seeing. If there's something else. All right, let me see. Oh, yeah. So that's what, that's what she was referring to. Okay, yeah, it's that is just crazy if you ask me. I mean, talk about suborning the will of the people, right? Lost Core 23 for $10 says, upon further thought, Trump should put in AJ Alex Jones in charge of the NARA, not press secretary, National Atomic Regulatory Agency. Is that what that is? NARA is that National Atomic Regulatory Association.
Sorry, I was muted again. Yeah, I think that's correct. It's an interesting thought.
National Archives. Yeah, National Archives and Records Administration. That's NARA.
Oh, yeah. I honestly,
National Archives.
Yes. The people who were there that played ball to try and get Trump indicted, do they need to go? Yeah, for sure. But apart from that, I don't really care that much about the National Archives.
Yeah. All right. Let me come back to this story. So this is I think Russia is going to do everything they can to gobble up as much of Ukrainian land as they can between now, because every inch of land they have is more that if they need to trade land for something else, there'll be that much less that they have to give up. How did Russia vehicles infiltrate Kupiansk? Somehow the Russians came up with motivation. The infiltration is an ominous sign for overstretched Ukrainian forces. They appeared seemingly out of thin air starting on Wednesday. A few Russian armored vehicles rolling south along the main road to Kupiansk, a city with a pre-war population of 26,000 along the front line of Kharkiv Oblast in northeastern Ukraine. The Ukrainians expect the Russians to repeatedly attack in small groups. It's the Russian standard tactic as their wider war in Ukraine grinds toward its fourth year. The Ukrainians didn't expect the Russians to deploy that tactic in Kupiansk. However, the city is 100 miles from each of the main loci of the wider war, Kursk, or in the Ukrainian fortress city of Pokrovsk.
Well, I got a question before we move on here. What do we mean by small groups? Are they going to get into that? Like, are we seeing raiding forces?
I think they're probably company team in the largest.
Okay.
So a combined arms force of probably.
And then we're talking about just like running in, hitting something, getting out, or like what? I'm confused.
Well, I don't know. Let's see what else they say. So it came as a big surprise when Ukrainian 114th Territorial Defense Brigade and adjacent units, when those Russian vehicles showed up in northern Kupiansk. It seemed that they traveled several miles from their original position to arrive in the city. The drones eliminated the infiltrating Russians, but that's little comfort to the rattled defenders of Kupiansk. The Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies claimed the Russians sneaked into the city dressed in Ukrainian uniforms, but at least one Ukrainian soldier wasn't content with such a pat explanation. He says there's no simple answer for a difficult question. He also said retroactively, since changes in the balance of power around Kupiansk back in June, July, as well as the end of spring, the Ukrainian forces gave the Russians the normal attacks there. He wrote, Russians would attack in groups of 10 or so, usually on foot, and promptly get wiped out. In recent months, this direction resembled chaos.
Well, hold on a second. Who sends 10 guys against a city of 150,000 armed with defenders? I'm sorry, I don't buy that.
Well, a city of 150,000?
Isn't that what Kupiansk isn't? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it had a pre-war population of 26,000, so it can't be that many now.
Well, okay, so 26,000 then. still 10
No,
guys on foot. Really?
But you got to remember, you got to remember, it's not into the city. It's like in the vicinity, right? So out in the countryside.
Okay, so they're not doing what they were doing over in what is it? Fucking those couple of forward cities that started with a K that I can't remember anymore because we haven't talked about them forever up in the north.
Yeah.
Where it was just house to house fighting.
Yeah, like Bakhmut and some of those other ones. Yeah. Let's see. Russian regiments north of Kupiansk have always had enough infantry, even those infantry were directionless and demoralized. But more recently, the regiments came up with motivation for that infantry. The source of the motivation should be obvious, anticipating that the U.S. President Donald Trump will lean on Ukraine to agree to an armistice that hands Russia control of any Ukrainian territory it occupies. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered that his troops go all out and grab as much of Ukraine as it can, as fast as they can, ahead of Trump's January inauguration. I mean, so it's exactly as we said. They're looking to do a land grab, so they're in the best possible position when the music stops. Let's see. They prioritize political goals above all else. This is an analysis with the Blackbird Group translated the offensive action. The Center for Defense Strategies predict the Kremlin will reinforce Kursk, Pokrovsk sectors at the expense of Kupiansk. For that reason, the prospect of a large-scale offensive by enemy remain unclear. In the city, the group stated, this is the interesting thing for me, though, is that these small-scale attacks, this whole war doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't see anything that the Ukrainians or the Russians are doing that is significantly different over the last 2 years. Now, you may have like some nuance kind of things in the tactics. So for instance, the drone thing is a innovation, and they've done some other things with that. But ultimately, I'm not seeing a whole lot of new stuff over the last. I'm not seeing a whole lot of new stuff.
No, I agree with you. The conflict is rather calcified at this point.
Yeah. And these small attacks, I mean, it's just piecemealing,
Well, and that's very confusing to me, right? Like the only thing that makes sense for, hey, 10 guys, you're going to go take out that entrenched position around that city is, those 10 guys were sent to die.
Yeah, well, or probing attacks, right? Like, I know this is going to be a high chance that you guys are going to get schwacked, but at least we'll know where the enemies is when you do get schwacked, Or are they operating drones in the area? If they do, we'll find that out, right?
Yeah. I just all of this seems rather odd.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, what else explains it?
Well, my first thought, could totally be wrong here because Russia's winning, but at the same time, they're still using conscripts, correct? I mean, just a thought here, but like,
well, no. So no, the
I'm a Russian conscript. I run away from the area where I'm being kept and find my way away from the commissar. Where do I go?
Remember, they have got a two-tier model. In the Russian army, they've got conscripts, but conscripts can only be deployed in areas of the actual Russian Republic.
Okay, I'm using the wrong word. I'm talking about those guys that they said, yes, you're in prison for a violent offense. But
those guys are mostly gone too now, oddly enough. They kind of already went through those guys. The low-hanging fruit is gone. What you're seeing now are people who have decided they're going to take, the payday is good enough, right?
Okay.
And because most of these people are doing these contracts, like 6 month, 1 year, 2 year contracts. And they're not getting a whole lot of training. I mean, that doesn't make, but ultimately it's the $2,000 a month or whatever, which is big money for a Russian, ditch digger in Siberia. So
it's huge money for the type of guys who go into a war zone, and then the first thing they do is like, hey, those houses all have washers and dryers. Somebody grab the half ton.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joe is not here today, but I will say definitely go. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about, before we get into the main topic, let's talk about the giveaway we're putting together.
Oh, hell yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. We're going to codify all this, and we're going to have some posts on X, and we'll do it in the community notes on YouTube. And we will also probably, I am actually, you know what? I want to show you something, Watcher, just to kind of prove.
Hell yeah. Yeah, let's see it.
This is the locals page, and there is no content yet.
There is no content, correct?
We had content here. Where did the content? There were like a couple from.
An excellent question, actually.
The point is that we have no current content, but we're going to start using this. I had to make sure I had my login all squared away. That was one of the things I was struggling with earlier today. I actually have 2 things written that I can post here in the near future. But one of the things that we're going to be posting here is the information about the giveaways. The first giveaway, which we're hopefully going to have ready to draw the names by Christmas, will be a Christmas giveaway. And it is going to be focused on, we've got a couple of sponsors who have said that they're interested in giving some stuff to us for that giveaway. And some of these sponsors are basically saying, listen, the idea is, you know, we would be interested in doing the giveaways for your audience. And we said, hey, we want to do like quarterly giveaways. So the first one would be like, you know, on X. So you have to, in order to take part in the giveaway, you'd have to, you know, you sign up on X, right? And the way you're going to sign up is you're going to take the post for the show on the Future Conflict X account, and then you have to share it, right, with all your friends.
Let me head something off at the pass. We haven't discussed this. This is happening live. But my thought on this is, if you are in a foreign country, you can enter, but you are responsible for the shipping costs of sending those.
That's the biggest problem, especially honestly to Canada. You know, something I ship to Americans for $10. You know, it's like $30 or $40. I mean, it's often.
Let me go back on that. Cards, because I ship cards constantly. To ship a card to America cost me roughly 50 cents. To ship a card to Canada cost me $37.50. A card, a tiny piece of cardboard, nothing else, just that.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, shipping I could deal with. Okay, so yeah, if pretty much if you're willing to pay for the shipping, then we'll ship it to you. But so the idea will be is we'll use X as the kind of and what you'll do is you'll retweet or repost the show, because every time we send the show out on X, right, it's live on X. And so if you retweet that, then all you got to do is, you know, tag us in the retweet. We should see the retweet but you know, tagging helps as well. And so that would literally be every time you kind of repost our show during the period, that would be an entry, right? And so we'll scrub it every day and add all the new reposts to the see Stormy posts in the locals. Every time you repost the show, then that would be an entry for you. So if you do it every show, you know, then you would have X number of entries by the time we do the thing. So that's how we're going to do it. So the only piece that you would have to do is you'd have to do it over on X, because that's really the only social media platform that we do anything with. Now, the next one, probably the one for Q1 of 2025, assuming we have a world to live in by then, that one will be locals based. So we're going to be using that to drive traffic over to locals. And we've got some plans. We've got some video from this past summer's event that we're going to put together, and we've got some other things that we'll be doing with locals. And I want to kind of get the content going before I start posting it, because I don't want to just post one thing and then crickets for the next 2 months. So we will be doing that. And so the idea will be that in order to get involved in that next giveaway, you will have to come through locals, and so that'll help drive traffic through locals.
Let me also say on the show posting, that doesn't just mean finding somebody else who made a post and then hitting repost. That's not going to count. You actually have to quote tweet, say something, and tag us in it.
Lamb chop for $11 says switch menu lamb chop from videos to articles, and there's content. Yeah. Menu.
Chat. My wife just texted me to let me know that she is making biscuits and gravy. Do with that knowledge what you will.
Yeah, the locals news feed, right? Yeah, there's content there. No, mostly it's Joe Dodo content.
I'm excited. Yeah, but we had video content there, and I'm not sure what happened. Like, I remember at one point people asked me to post the intro there, and I remember putting it there, but it's not there now. So we'll have to figure that out.
Look, there's Stormy. Welcome to locals. Content. There we go. No content yet. Playlists. No. Anyway, so we're going to
at one point had an interview with a certain someone who's been on my mind a lot lately, because their takes have literally all proven one after the other to be just the worst possible fucking takes you could have made at the time. Anyhow,
so all right. Biscuits and gravy ready to go. Yeah, I can't wait to have biscuits and gravy when I come back to the States.
Is it just flat out like a no-go in Korea? Like nobody does it? Like not even as like a
hold on a second, watch it. Just me for $49.99. Don't stop. I have nothing important things to say. I just wanted to enjoy you guys and grateful for the channel, and y'all have helped Edwina, my Christmas gift presents, Baden radios, and stack of Gorilla Guides. Yep,
wow. Yeah.
Those are great. Those are great gifts. Like, guys, let me just say, like, I'm not shilling just because he's my friend. Tactical wisdom books are gonna be great Christmas presents, right? And it's like okay, so it's just one book. That's not a great present, but if it's somebody young and it's a low price gift, then you just do maybe book one. But if it's somebody like actually means something to you, look at getting like the first 3 books, right? Or if you want to go all in and do a full set, that is. I'll be honest with you. I haven't seen a whole lot out there that's more useful than that. The way he's organized it, and and I know that I'm kind of a broken record talking about his book series, but one of the things I really like about it is he actually makes practical use of biblical quotes and things like that. Scriptures, actually making it relative to the point of of the topic in the book, and survival and the preparedness mindset in general. So definitely that would be something that I would recommend as a gift. And if you think you might be giving a Baofeng radio to somebody, which is another great gift, by the way, a 2-pack of Baofengs, put the Gorilla Guide to the Baofeng radio in there with it, and it makes a hell of a package.
We're getting some weird questions. So let me just say, there is nothing in the gift package that is the prize for winning the contest that would concern anyone with any kind of legal backgrounds. There's no restricted items in there.
Yeah, it's gonna. So we don't have all the stuff yet, but let me give you an idea of what it will be. It will be hats, patches, T-shirts, stickers, tactical gear, but not like anything. If just tactical nylon, like pouches, belts, things like that. So it'll be those types of items, something that anybody could receive, something that we would be able to ship to pretty much any country that I can think of. So anyway, yes, that's what we're going to be doing. No electronics. There won't be any radios or anything like that in there. There, probably some books.
I will say that a certain excellent gear manufacturer who made the belt I've been wearing ever since Montana has decided to toss in there, which I'm stupid excited about. I can't wait to see what you guys think of that.
Oh, speaking of which, I need to get
pictures are appreciated.
I need. Can you can you DM me your address again? I'm gonna give him that address as the address for him to ship to.
Will do.
And then if I think he's gonna ship me some stuff as well, so I'll just give you some money.
We'll
and then
forward it on to you. Yeah. We'll APO it to you. Yeah, no problem.
All right.
What's the CFC Christmas calendar?
You know what would be funny if we were to go back through all of our thumbnails and like do some of our favorite thumbnails as a calendar. That'd be funny.
You know what? That actually would be pretty decent. Chat. Actually, I'm assigning this to you guys. Tag me with a picture of your favorite thumbnail from the last year.
Yeah. That if you guys if that's something you think.
This is correct. There are no wireless hole punchers involved.
No knives either.
Yeah, correct.
Though knives potentially could be something maybe in a future one. But
okay, we've done this, and I've said for a long time, I will have them made the second you guys tell me what you want, except for Colonel Tom or Major Tom. We can kind of do Major Tom, but all the samples that I've got for him, it was kind of hard to tell what it was because it's so low resolution.
For those of you guys that are in the fan chat over on X, pop the ideas in there, right? And if you're not, by the way, if you're not in the fan chat, DM Stormy and let her know. I think
or me. Well, technically, actually, no, that's a bad idea. I am probably way too busy to be adding people to fan chats. But basically, anybody who's in the chat can add you. So if you know someone who is, correct, Laura Cox, no pagers.
No pagers, yeah.
Remember, no pagers.
Where is her? She actually. Here we go. Here's the
fan
thing.
Chat
By the way,
is in fact fire.
Yeah, so Stormy's EDC on X. So just hit her up, and she will add you within the next, several hours, probably. I think she's at work now, so she won't be able to do it now. But
you're fine, just me. You good? But speaking of people who are flipping their shit.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about. So this is the policy shifts, right? I love this stuff because we're seeing. We all kind of said, listen, okay, there is a 10 out of 10, right? We all would love to see a 10 out of 10. But what we really expected is like Trump says 10 things and we're going to get 5 things, right?
Or 4 to 5, right?
Right. And so what we are seeing with these nominations is 10 out of 10. Some people could quibble and say Rubio is a little soft, and like a lot of conservatives are still not sold on Tulsi Gabbard. I'm here to tell you, putting JFK Jr. in the HHS secretary and putting Tulsi as the national intelligence, the DNI, these are perfect places because it fences them in, right? Into very kind of specific niche areas that are probably not very affected by their political proclivities, that they've shown outside of the things that specifically Trump wants them for. I was really worried about that Trump would put Tulsi in as a SecDef because that would have been a real feather in her cap going forward. Now, DNI is no bullshit position, but it's one of those kind of like, in the trenches doing work. I mean, and I think it probably plays to her strength. But it also doesn't give her an opportunity to get all liberal hearts and mindy, all this kind of crazy shit,
Let's have a brief discussion about that, because they have raised one interesting point, and of course I agree with you, and get fucked, intelligence agency. If you didn't want non-intelligence agency people involved, you would have self-moderated. You didn't, so
Yeah.
get fucked. But they are saying, like, oh, how can you have someone who has no background in intelligence work whatsoever as head of the ODNI? And I mean, okay, they might have some kind of point to that.
So the
I'm not
interesting
saying they do, but I think it's
the
worth
interesting
a
thing for
discussion.
me is that the DNI doesn't have an intelligence agency that they run. They have basically a coordinating staff, right? It is the middle. They are the middleman for the intelligence community and the White House, or maybe the executive branch writ large, right? And so what does that mean? Well, she doesn't run the CIA. There's a CIA director who runs the CIA. She doesn't run the DIA. She doesn't run the NSA. She doesn't run the NRO. She doesn't run any of these three-letter agencies, half of which most people have never even heard of. And because of that, there's always another Trump appointee between her and the actual, where the rubber meets the road. And I think that's exactly the right kind of thing. That the right place for her. Like I said, it fences her in, right? It uses her name, and you get all the kind of the benefit from the people who came to the party, like the Bernie Bros who followed Tulsi over to Trump.
Shit, Scott.
Yeah,
we have breaking that, like, normally we break stuff because it's breaking, but it's not usually directly related to our channel. This one is. Breaking news: Project Veritas's latest investigation is with a UN employee who claims, in pretty plain language, that the UN is angling to go to war because it makes the UN more money.
Can you put that in the private chat?
Yes. On its way. Sorry. It's just a big deal. Jesus.
Yeah, this actually may be something that would be better for the second topic, because the second topic is basically what they're all doing because they hate him, right? And if the UN is motivated to go to war, they may try to do that before he can, make an end run around. All right, so well, I'm gonna save that one. Let's go ahead and talk about this stuff, and we'll don't let me forget. We'll put that one into segment 2. All right, so for policy shifts, Trump nominates RFK Jr. for his Health and Human Services. Let's see, a 70-year-old Kennedy has been a longtime health advocate who Trump said would let go wild should he win the November 5th election. He's going to help make America healthy again. I think that's interesting, the whole "make America healthy again," kind of idea. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him get to it. Go have a good time, Bobby. And so here's the official announcement that they posted to Truth Social. I'm thrilled to announce Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services. For a long time, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. I hope they get rid of the advertising for drug companies. The safety and health of the American people is the most important role of any administration, and HHS will play a big role in helping ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, pharmaceutical products, and food additives that have contributed to overwhelming health crisis in this country. Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of the gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again. So for my money, I've never been up on this whole vaccine thing, and he could be 100% correct. I don't know. He also could be, say, 60% correct, right? But
yeah,
for me, the thing that resonates for me is not the vaccine stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm as jaded as anybody from what happened with COVID because of my job and because of just honestly not focusing on. I took the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, right? That was the one I wanted because that one seemed to be the most close to it wasn't an mRNA vaccine, right? So I felt okay about that, right? But at the same time, so many people just, lined right up, and people I know who are way anti-vax now took the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccine. So just how quickly things can change, right? But for me, real quick, the thing that resonates is not the drug stuff. It's the food health stuff. It's like, and what got me thinking about that is, I'm getting older. I've got to kind of watch what I eat a little more than I used to need to. But I've also got kids, right? And all the news that's come out in the last 5 to 10 years about how how developing children are affected, especially men, are developed by microplastics and and other kind of dissolved plastics in food, and seed oil stuff and preservatives, and the list goes on and on and on, right? This stuff
Scott,
all
resonates. Are you about to
me.
reveal yourself as secretly being the raw egg nationalist? Is that you?
No, I don't care enough for that kind of stuff. Wait a second. Project Veritas?
Yes.
That's the people that are running Project Veritas after.
I suspect so, but footage is still footage, man.
All right.
And we can comment on the fact that they're dirty, lying, cheating scumbags, but it's likely that the person who was actually doing this investigation wasn't, just another investigative reporter on a beat.
Yeah, Griswold, I'm the same way. I thought that they pushed him out and they kind of died on the vine afterwards. It makes me wonder, and we're going to see InfoWars stuff under the the Onion banner.
Yeah, they've specifically said that. Yeah, that's why they bought it.
It's going to become a parody site, though.
Yeah. Oh, you mean, are we going to see actual investigative reporting? Yeah. Well,
yeah. No. The answer is no. And they're not. They're going to put money into this, and they're going to lose their shirt on it, and they're going to fold it up in 6 months.
Well, didn't they just get sold as well? I thought they were bankrupt.
Oh, the Onion? Yeah, I don't know. I can't keep track of all that shit, man. So yeah, I think this is a good pick. I love it that. Let's see if I can find the links, because there were links about people, like, I'm getting out of here. RFK Jr. Let's see if I can find, just on a quick search here. He's going to go after pharmaceutical ads on TV. If they're banned, this will effectively end the dominance of the legacy media. Yeah, exactly. Because those pharmaceutical ads are keeping the legacy of media afloat almost single-handedly. Let's see what I'm just looking for the. Oh yeah, and so for people who talk about he's not qualified, are you saying the trans woman who was working for, was qualified? There he is. There's the guy right there. What an incredible upgrade from weirdo cross-dressing to Giga Chad. Who better to take on the road? And he's 70. Yep. Good Lord. Yeah, I think if he helps bring the idea that that being fat and eating, this is not good, right? This is funny. Hold on a second. Let me share this one.
All right.
Even if this guy's a hater, this is funny. Trump welcoming RFK Jr. to the White House. That's funny. All right. Anyway, final thoughts there on RFK Jr. watcher.
It's
you know what? Let's play this video from the tweet here. I think it's just above the one you're showing right there on the shared screen. Go back up. Yeah, that one. Let's play that video. I don't hear anything. I can't hear anything. Can you not hear me? I think you're...
Since 2005, I spend 30 minutes praying every day when I get out of bed. And
Well, he let that applause go on, didn't he?
And my prayer is this. I ask God for 19 years to put me in a position where I could end the chronic disease epidemic and bring health back to our children.
I mean, I think he's got the right motivation.
And in August, God sent me Donald Trump.
Yeah. I think he's going to have a lot of personal loyalty towards Trump throughout this period of time, you've been muted for a while, I think.
No, I'm having connection issues, I think.
Oh.
Specifically, not like internet connection issues, but connection issues between my headphones and my laptop. Anyhow.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. Looking at other policy changes, so how could Trump transform the Indo-Pacific policy? This is an article from the Epoch Times. President-elect Donald Trump's second term in office will likely bring sweeping changes to the nation's Indo-Pacific policy and ongoing strategic competition with China. So this covers a lot. This covers the Taiwan, the Taiwan Straits, China. It's the South China Sea, it's the Philippines, it's all those islands, it's Scarborough Shoals, it's all that. Mm-hmm. It also impacts Malaysia, India, Brunei, Vietnam. Indo-Pacific Korea also goes around to the Indian Ocean through Straits of Malacca. So this is a broad swath of impact that his policies could change. So it's not just Taiwan, like we talk about that a lot, but it's also the Korean Peninsula.
I mean, we talk about Taiwan a lot because it's kind of what's up at the moment. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
there's a
well,
ton of
and
that
then
area
Japan still clashes with China. So it's a lot of these things. Leaders throughout Congress and the national security space are therefore preparing for an era marked by increased confrontation as the administration pushes back on the Chinese regime's aggression in the region. It'll be really interesting to see how Trump plays this. Does he play the kind of like, hey, I want to make a deal. I want to, no reason for us to kind of go at each other, which is kind of how I think he'll play it. But there's also the, hey, listen, speak softly and carry a big stick, right? We've got a hollowed out Navy. I think if he starts really trimming the fat from the military and really starting to kind of bulk up on the rather hollowed out portions of the military, I think, which for my money goes to the Navy the most. But you could say the Army and Air Force need some TLC as well. So anyway, so that's I think that's what he'll do. Let's see. During Trump's first administration, peace through strength was the forefront of the American foreign policy. The entire free world must act with urgency to invest in the collective military power in order to deter conflict, support global prosperity, and defend our values against the CCP. This is from let's see, Representative John Molinar from he's a Republican from Michigan, chair of the House Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. That is a very specific House Select Committee. Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't expect Trump to kind of that peace through strength kind of policy.
Same.
Clearly, Taiwan's the flashpoint in this region. United States does not officially support Taiwanese independence or forceful unification of the two territories. Likewise, the United States has maintained a policy of so-called strategic ambiguity since 1979, in which it will neither confirm nor deny its willingness to enter a military conflict to defend Taiwan. This is very handy for the U.S. because it allows us to essentially not join the war if we think it's not in our best interest. That might be one of those kind of things where China kicks off a war, like a blockade or whatever, against Taiwan. And then potentially we call their bluff. And if China decides to actually fire back, on that blockade, then it becomes a decision. Do we cross the next step and actually help Taiwan actively militarily, which could potentially drag us into a wider conflict with China? And I'll be honest,
the first great powers conflict since World War II. Yeah.
If we're not ready for it, I don't think we should do it. Right. I'm not saying that we shouldn't fight China. If China acts really stupid, we should.
Yeah.
The problem is that we should only engage in a major conflict if we are prepared to do so.
Well, also, if it actually benefits us. And if the people that we're fighting for are actually willing to fight for themselves.
Yeah. Let's see. So Trump's transactional approach to international security deals has thrown Taiwan's central role into the government economy into question. In July, for example, Trump called Taiwan to pay more for its defense, though the island is already one of the largest purchasers of arms from the U.S. Yeah, but we also give them aid. Since 1950, Taiwan spent more than $50 billion on U.S. weapons, making it the fourth largest purchaser of U.S. arms behind Japan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. Trump has also suggested the military force would not be necessary to protect Taiwan from the CCP, and has instead claimed that severe enough economic threat to China would prevent an invasion of Taiwan. So this is where I think that you miss the mark when you think that sanctions are going to really stop. It may deter China if China thinks it's like, well, okay, we want this thing, right? But ultimately, we can leave it for now because we'll take it later, right? And if that were the case, then potentially sanctions could be a strategy to buy time so that we're ready when China decides to go physical, go kinetic on seizure of Taiwan. Let's see. Washington and Taipei should be prepared for Beijing to exploit this in its cognitive warfare campaigns. And so one of the things that Pete Hegseth has said is that we have a perfect record against China in all of our military simulations against it. We've won 0 times. China wins every time. And so because of that, I think that has drawn a lot of attention inside. Now, I mean, I can only say what I see in the newspapers, But from what I've seen, there are rumors that there is an increased amount of attention being provided by the defense establishment towards, what would we really have to do if we really had to fight China? And that makes me feel good to know that that kind of stuff is happening at those levels.
I'm sorry. Like, it kind of makes me like, okay, great. I'm glad it's happening now. Fucking 3 decades too late.
But you have to understand, the military is at the kind of beck and call of the civilian leadership, right? And if the civilian leadership says Russia is the threat, then like a good dog, they go towards the threat.
You still have a plan. We have plans for literally contingencies of killing our own people. The U.S. military drafts plans for zombie fucking invasions. Serious, long, in-depth plans that cost millions of dollars.
In fairness, that plan was made by a planner who had too much time on his hands on his own time. So that was in Iraq.
Yeah, it was hilarious, by the way. It was really good.
I liked it because it used real values. It was actually classified. I mean, it used real troop information and static defense. So it was classified, but it was for zombies. Classified from the zombies. So I mean, but it's ultimately, it's just one of those kind of things, right? Is that, we know, and the plans that we made 10 years ago are still there. But the reality of the enemy, the reality of, it may not be there. And I can tell you, they do update the plans, the kind of the O plans and whatnot in these areas every so often. But just because a dedicated cadre of planners in the Indo-Pacific region is dutifully doing their due diligence on what the threat for China is and what the U.S. should do, that doesn't mean that
broader
that
officer corps. Yeah.
Well, not even the officer corps. Forget about the officer corps. They get a full pass on this, right? And they have their own issues. But what it comes down to is the priorities of the civilian leadership of the military, right? They are the ones that really kind of dictate what happens, whether it's through the procurement process. Hey, listen, when our efforts to blunt Russia in Europe is not super tied to the Navy. I mean, the Navy has a piece of that fight, but it's not mainly a Navy fight. It's mainly an Air Force and an Army fight. But when you look at the Pacific, it is absolutely a Navy fight. And because of that, when you hollow out the Navy on shipbuilding, you basically are saying that I'm willing to sacrifice capabilities that would be prioritized towards an Indo-Pacific theater operation.
Well,
and that puts us at a big disadvantage. So that's where Trump may say, listen, getting into a shooting fight is not the way to go because we're not ready for one. So maybe what we do is we get really heavy on sanctions. And like I said, trade time for space, right? And then 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, you've built your military back up, specifically the Navy and other capabilities in the Indo-Pacific theater, so that if you had to go to kinetic with China, you could do so and have a good idea that you would win. Well, I'll be honest with you. Even if, let's say we're not ready, I have no idea if we're ready or not. I mean, I'm just making an assumption here. Even if we're not ready where we think we should be, I'm here to tell you, we would still put a hurting on the modern military capabilities of China. The problem is China ultimately doesn't give a shit about force projection the way we do. They just want to kind of secure China and secure their direct interests, right? And that's Taiwan. That is,
Well, you said something there that's important, which is we would put a hurting on them. Yes, we would also, in the process of doing so, the cost would be ending our force projection capabilities as well.
Yeah, I disagree with that. You got to remember what I'm saying is that it's a stealth bomber getting within 1,000 miles of a target and then launching
yes, but
stealthy cruise missiles that would then blow that target up, and then the stealth bomber flies back to Montana.
yes, and then the stealth bomber, provided every single one of them make it back, runs out of ammunition within a week. I mean, and then that gets replenished at the rate of what, like 12 a year. So
well, I mean, let's be honest, right? If we were to declare war and go to a wartime economy, that would change relatively
we
quickly.
have supposedly been in a wartime economy. They've been
We're not in
using
a we are nowhere near in a wartime economy. You see any auto factories that have been retooled for military production? No. We have
because the
increased.
type of stuff we need to see now doesn't fit into that type. That's part of what I'm talking about. The
We
exquisite
have
weapons that
increased.
now
We have
rely on to do what
increased
you're
our
talking
artillery
about.
shell production by what, 300%, so that we can ship more shells over to
And
Ukraine.
Russia has beat us by a factor of 3.
I mean, okay, but they already made more than we did. So it's like, that's like saying, well, they increased by twice and we increased by 3 times, right? Because they already made a whole lot. They actually have a lot of that.
No. They are now 3x our increased production numbers, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, of their total amount is 3x our current production, right?
Yes,
but they
which
didn't
increase.
But they didn't increase it as much as we increased ours. You see what I'm saying? Like we're increasing ours faster than they're increasing theirs, is what I'm saying. We're still way behind them.
In a technology that is an old and settled and finished technology that you actually can retool old other factories for. But when we're talking about stealth bombers and the multi-million-dollar missiles they fire, that's not something you can just turn an old auto factory and an old rusting auto factory in the Rust Belt into a missile factory overnight. It's just not.
So so for instance, we set a goal to produce 100,000 rounds every month by the end of next year. And we're actually already doing that right now. So that was one of the big stories that kind of came out a couple months after this, right? Is that they had more success than they expected on the throughput. Russia already, this is at the beginning of this year, they were producing 250,000 artillery rounds per month, or 3 million a year, right? That's according to NATO intelligence estimates. Now, on top of that, they're getting over 1 million rounds a year, thereabouts, and other type of munitions from North Korea. Now, we've already talked about this in the past. Okay, North Korean rounds, let's say only 50% of them work. Well, that's still 500. If they give you 1 million rounds, that's 500,000 that work that you didn't have before, right? And so, this is it's all for the kind of the good. Now, the interesting thing is that American production efficiency is much higher, and so if we were to go into a more aggressive economy, right? Not even a wartime economy, but just a more aggressive economy focused on military production. I mean, our production efficiency is much higher than pretty much almost anybody else in the world. So it's just a matter of putting our money and our effort into it. But ultimately, you're right. We're not there right now, but it would take some money and effort to get there. But once we did, I have no doubt that we would be able to get in a pretty good place faster than anybody else in the world could do so. And oh, by the way, everybody else in the world faces the same challenges that we do, because nobody makes as many smart precision weapons or whatever high-tech weapons as we do. I mean, that's just a fact. And let's be honest, we actually make those weapons for a lot of the world too. That would be another hard thing for a lot of countries to swallow, is that we would not be able to provide those weapons if we were in a high-end conflict with China. Hey, Don, what's going on, brother?
Good morning. I might be entirely
blown
out.
Hold on. You have improperly introduced Don, and now I must say it. Much like they say, "Speak his name, and the devil appears." Talk about artillery shells
I know,
Wow.
I know. I was going to make a pithy comment, but I just thought I would, ease Don into it versus throwing him right in the deep end.
We're talking
Don, how you doing,
shells.
brother?
How do you know? Actually, strangely good. How is life in chat today?
For me, it's good. It's a late night, but it's a Friday night here in Korea, so I'm good.
Well, there you go.
We got a little sidetracked on this story about Indo-Pacific. We're talking about the policies are going to change under Trump, and so we're just kind of identifying what some of those are. And we were talking about the change of the Indo-Pacific theater and how Trump's approach will be different, right? And the bottom line up front is, and I think we generally agree with that, but I'd be interested to hear what you think, is that we think that Trump will do a peace through strength kind of situation. The problem is that when it comes to Indo-Pacific, the last 4 years have absolutely hollowed out our capabilities, especially when it comes to the Navy. On this channel, we've talked numerous times about our just dearth of, high-end weapon systems. We have like a couple days worth of magazine for these types of weapons. So it would be tough. We could talk tough to China, but it would be really hard in the near term to do a full-on kinetic war with China.
I just, before we move on, I have to say,
no, we're not going to move on. I want Don's. I summarized all that so that Don could jump into it.
In case you're wondering how fire our private jet is.
Yeah, I like it. That's
so. In January, it would be hard for us to go at China. And I want to say that a certain Joe Stradamus has said quite openly that if he was Xi, the day to launch this is January 20th, Inauguration Day, because it's 100%. The weakest our military will be. Right. And he's 100% right.
No, actually, it's before that, because then you might even have the current president decide to declare an emergency and we're going to have to hold off on this transition.
Maybe, but I don't think so. You want to talk about so I guess that depends on whether or not Xi is trying to initiate the boog in America, which, I mean, to be fair, he probably would be okay with that.
He probably would be okay with that, yeah.
On January 20th, though, we're probably not going to have any capability to do much of anything for all of the reasons that is the past 4 years. That said, though, if he waits even a few months, this could go dramatically differently than everybody's expecting. Marginally, because Trump is notoriously a giant fan of steel factories, right? Went out of his way the last time around to say, hey, American steel used to be a thing and it should be a thing again. So we're going to do stuff that's going to make it a thing.
Yeah.
That unto itself puts us back in the realm of doing things like artillery shells, tanks, etc., right? That we just haven't had the capability to do for the past 4 years because the country's been such a disaster. Outside of that, he's the purge of all the generals is probably going to stop the absolute ridiculousness that is, smart weapons win wars, which, by the way, smart weapons don't win wars. Bullets win wars. Dumb HE rounds win wars. Everything under the sun that you can just throw a lot of wins wars.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, God.
Monstered up specialists win war.
And if you disagree with us on that, come back to us when you actually win a goddamn war.
Well, and so don't get me wrong. Smart weapons all have their places. All of these really cool toys have their places. But this worship of GPS guided munitions is basically what's killing us to begin with, right? We've got pick your favorite GPS guided munition. We've got 8,000 HIMARS rockets on standby at any given moment. Like, okay, well, that's great. And HIMARS are awesome and they do cool things. And that's wonderful. The frontline engagement, how do we win that? Because you don't drop HIMARS on the guys who are pulling triggers. You don't do that. And so, it turns out that we could just go do all of those things that Trump wants done on an economic scale and very quickly become that World War II Titan all over again, where we print out 8 quadrillion Sherman tanks in like 4 minutes. And yes, a lot of Americans die in those kinds of wars, but we do win them. And so the longer he waits post-Trump taking office, the crazier.
The harder
by
it
the
gets.
way, exactly. And on a final note, purging all of the generals who were addicted to all of these things with a Pete Hegseth kind of guy going, hey, this is the kind of general we want, the kind that knows that you win wars with bullets and not GPS guided munitions, means that if that guy is sec def and we go we go to fight somebody, a lot of whomever that somebody is going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. And
Yeah.
I
just want to back up real quick with what Guru said. Not just rippets, but those weird, methed up deployment rippets that are different than the rippets that are
I'd
here.
just like to say that I said hopped up specialists on monsters, about 3 minutes ago. So,
Indeed.
Anyway, real quick, Lance Corporal veteran, didn't Japan attack during attempts at diplomacy? I can't remember all of my history.
Well, I mean, the answer is yeah-ish. Welcome to the internet's favorite, conspiracy portion of World War II. Well, we were doing diplomacy things, but also we just refused to answer them for a while, and then they attacked. And so they sort of, even if you want to say yes.
Well, hell, and our diplomacy things in this case amounted to, hey, we see that you're trying to build an empire that requires X resources. We have now cut you off from X resources.
Also true.
The irony, Don, is that a major war under Donald Trump and then potentially continued to be executed by his successor with a similar worldview and or continuing the same economic policies. I hate to say this. This is like totally cynical of me to say, but it would probably be the best thing to get America back on track.
Well, that's very Woodrow Wilson of you, but
no, but I say that from the standpoint of like, it's like if you don't have an external pressure, right? A lot of times you're just a debating society for societal change, right? Whatever that change may be. But when you start having external pressures, that's when it's like, okay, we got to put this nonsense aside and we have to, it's like, this is how we got MRAPs in 18 months and like MRAPs out the gazoo to the point where we're leaving them behind everywhere we go now. Like they're empty cardboard boxes.
It's cheaper to leave them, sir.
Well,
right. I love President Trump's kind of opine on both Mattis and Mealy. So it's cheaper to leave them. He's like, you are the stupidest person. He is so stupid.
I mean, is Trump wrong?
I mean, not for me to say.
Look, I love Mattis to death when the guy is killing people. All right, keep him out of DC.
I loved. There's an adjective there now. There's some things you don't take back.
No, it's a past tense is what it is.
Yeah. There are some things you cannot take back.
Indeed.
So, I don't want to talk about the next topic.
No, neither do I. But let's go anyway. Trump win unlikely to substantially change U.S. stance on Ukraine, says Lavrov.
So this is interesting because Rubio is the Secretary of State. He's a kind of a war hawk, right? And he has been what I would call kind of 50-50 so-so on Ukraine, right? On one hand, he's all about like helping the Ukrainians, but on the other hand, he's been very tough on like, hey, what are you doing with our money? You know, it's like he's actually asking those kind of questions, right? So I put him not like 1 foot in the NAFO bro kind of camp, but 1 foot in the kind of conservative skeptics camp. But what he has never been is like us, where it's like literally we don't have any fucking business in Ukraine, you know.
None.
We don't, and oh, by the way, he probably supports NATO, which you know our thoughts on NATO.
Well, in that, him being Secretary of State is probably a good thing.
Right, he can help with some of that kind of policy, but ultimately, that's once you get left of the bang, you know, Secretary of State doesn't have a whole lot of business in there.
Exactly, right. Keeps him out of the part where he could cause real damage. That said, for anybody who thinks I'm coping over Rubio being chosen, I'm not. He still should have been shot out of a cannon into the sun. But we are where we are, and this is the case.
Hey, so in fairness, Rubio has done a much better job of Republicans who criticized Trump in the past, but then, you know, have come over to Trump after the fact, both the neocons that tried to do that in 2016 and people who have done it since then. He has been the most successful in making me believe that he's actually kind of seen the error of his ways and is now a full-on supporter of the president.
In what way?
I could be wrong.
The man was a full, deep-throated supporter of the Uniparty for his entire career up to that point. All I see is an empty suit being blown in the wind.
Well, so that's not inherently contradictory to what Scott just said, right? If he is just an empty suit being blown in the wind, then today the wind is blowing towards Trump. Guess what? That means you jump on the train and you go as hard as you can. It also means that when the day comes that the wind shifts even a little, you can't trust Rubio at all.
Right.
Correct.
And
That's
how
what we
and
call
how
a fair
long,
weather friend.
and how long does a Rubio stay in this job, right? Even if he's doing everything right, I don't know that he stays in more than 2 years. Because I think he'll want to position himself to run for the nomination. You know, if he can support Trump for 2 years as sec state and kind of bite his tongue on his own personal opinions or whatever, and go full MAGA for 2 years, then he must feel like he has as good a chance as any to get the nomination coming out of the Trump administration.
All the worse reason to give a snake like that cover.
Well, hold on, because my favorite conspiracy theory of this, and I understand that it is, but it is my favorite, is that when DeSantis said, "Okay, I'm out," he went to Trump and he said, "Hey, Trump, here's the deal. I'm out, but you have to get rid of Rubio if you win. I can't have this guy as the senator of my state anymore. He's hot garbage."
Right. So he pulls Rubio into the administration. Rubio does it for a year, and then Trump says, "Yeah, hey, you're not doing what I want."
Right.
You're
Promoted
fired.
You're
to
out.
the level of his incompetence. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, my wildest hopes and dreams are that is true. I don't necessarily think that's true, but my wildest hopes and dreams hope that that's true.
I honestly think there are certain things that are more likely. The least entertaining version is likely to be the case, and there are other things that's the opposite. The most entertaining version is the likely to be the case. In the case of Rubio, as boring as he is, I think probably the most boring answer is probably the most likely one, in that he's eager to serve Trump's bidding and get everything that he can out of it while, he's making hay while the sun shines for himself.
In his own personal opinion, that is almost guaranteedly true. In slight promotion of your view that, Rubio is supporting Trump and equally in the fair weather friend kind of way. He did quite a few times come out and say, "Hey, Trump is doing everything right, blah, blah, blah." That said, I am more than a little cynical about things that any of these people say.
I'm hard pressed. There are so when it comes to Pete and comes to even Tulsi, right? RFK Jr., all these people have kind of surrounded themselves in Trump's orbit. They have either begrudgingly come over to Trump's point of view, which is an indication of real kind of a winning them over, or they have been long-term partisans of Trump and have shown loyalty when they didn't have to, right? And so those are the two types of people I'm most likely to trust in a Trump administration. Now, Rubio has not, I can't say that, since Trump was president, I don't see that Rubio is directly stabbed in the back, but I also don't think that Rubio ever really went against the grain to show loyalty for Donald Trump. I mean,
indeed.
If you can think of something, I'm trying to think back to January 6th to see if there was something. I want to say that Rubio was like, "Oh, we shouldn't do anything crazy here."
Well, so
he wasn't plunging the knife in the back either.
I don't recall, and chat will correct me if I'm wrong. I don't recall him, crusading to throw J6ers in jail or hang us in the streets or any of those other kinds of things. But he did give. I mostly recall him giving ridiculously milquetoast answers, like, "Well, we should see what the outcome of the investigation."
Yeah. Well, let's wait and see. Right. Like I said, when he had the opportunity to really show loyalty, he didn't show loyalty, but he also didn't. He wasn't the one grabbing the knife from Brutus and stabbing it in Trump's back, or in this case, Pence. Let's see. This is a translation from Russian media that Lavrov said. I have no doubt that they will want to keep these processes under control. Washington's attitude towards Ukrainian affairs and European affairs will not change in principle. I don't know about that, but Lavrov's a pretty smart guy in the sense that Washington will always strive to keep under its watchful eye everything that happens in those areas near NATO and the NATO area itself. What would be the most interesting thing to me is if Trump literally came out and said, "What do I care about Europe?" It's like, what do you get? What do you do for us? What do we get from you? What, if he were to do something like that, I would be like,
right.
What's funny is that we could actually have a strategic, I view a way that the U.S. could break up the EU, and it wouldn't even be hard. All right, listen, we're going to go out. Britain broke off from the EU, and we're going to support them because we don't like the way the EU is bullying these smaller countries. By the way, if you're a small country in the EU thinking of breaking away, just know you have a friend in America. Done. Gone. It'll take a month.
I don't know that we're talking about the failures of administration, but it's just we're just prognosticating, right? And the interesting thing, Ron, if I had to say of the current lineup where I would have to put money on failure from day one, I would put it on Rubio. But
well, so the one thing that we do know in relation to Rubio is in the what's his name, Joe Rogan interview, right?
Yeah.
Anytime Trump walked into a room with Bolton standing behind him, whoever he was talking to was like, "Oh my God, Trump's going to go to war with us. He brought that guy." And Rubio doesn't serve that quite as well, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, Rubio is, like I said, he's a war hawk. I mean, it is what he is. He's tough on that kind of stuff. And people like that tend to be generally supportive of the wars that we're involved in, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel. And
people who've never gone to war are very quick to send other people's children to war.
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely. Wonderful. All right. Hey, you know what? I want to talk real quick. I don't have this on. I don't have this on the thing, but I wanted to share this because Matt Gaetz is being highly entertaining on Twitter.
Always
on X.
I can only assume that it's fantastic right now.
All right. So as you guys know, they're now trotting out the tired stories about Matt Gaetz and his all these dealings with sex trafficking and all this whatnot and drugs.
By which they mean was dating a girl that he brought into the country. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Lies were weaponized to try to destroy me. The lies resulted in the prosecution, conviction, and prison for the liars, not me. I focus on truth and doing my job, which is absolutely right. What's interesting is, so like the Korean media is already saying, like they're reporting this information as if it's brand new and they'd never heard it before, right? Like my wife asked me today, she's like, what happened? What's Matt Gaetz, like, raped some girl and sex trafficked or something like this? And I was like, what are you talking about?
We did this 2 years ago. Leave it alone.
I know, but the funny thing is that they're trying to gaslight the mainstream media into thinking that this is new information, right? That
Wait. Democrats are relying on misinforming low information voters?
Disinformation. Oh my God!
This is news.
The people who complain about disinformation are now using disinformation and misinformation. Yes, absolutely correct.
So for entirely personal reasons, I love this. All right. And I probably shouldn't, right? Matt Gaetz is a good boy who didn't do nothing. On the other hand, boy, am I currently enjoying the guy who's about to be attorney general getting accused of crimes he didn't commit so that he can be crucified in the press. I'm just throwing that out there.
Weird.
Yeah. I like this one. This was a favorite of this from this morning's his X posts. John Bolton says Gaetz must be the worst nomination for a cabinet position in American history. This is something that falls well outside the proper scope of deference to a president nominating members of his senior team. Gaetz is not only totally incompetent for this job, he doesn't have any character or civic virtue that the founding fathers wanted. That is very real.
We just got off a president who elected a goddamn transvestite who went around the country on a national campaign stealing clothes out of women's airline bags, who had no qualifications for the job other than I think I'm a woman. And John Bolton thinks Matt Gaetz is the worst.
So I love the first three responses are, if John Bolton hates somebody, that means they're good for the country. The next one is, if you hate him, then he's the right man for the job. The Hodge twins say, thank you for endorsing Matt Gaetz.
Exactly. This is the way to look at this. That's all I'm saying.
And Matt Gaetz says, we'll mark John down as a maybe. Oh, boy. Yeah, this is here we go.
John Bolton for Sun.
This is Trump talking about John Bolton.
But I said, don't go in. They went in. It was such a bad decision. So Bolton, see again, you get back. Bolton, a real dope. But I thought he'd be great because he was so stupid. He was like a boiler. Every time, if somebody shot down a little tiny crappy drone that cost about $15, he'd want to go to war with Russia. I said, no, I think he was great for me, though, for a period of time because he was a nut job, and everybody, I could see his face get red with that stupid white mustache. And he'd be ready to explode. And this was good for me. I went to Kim Jong-un in North Korea. I took this moron with me, and he never said anything. But when Kim Jong-un saw him, he said, oh, shit, I think the guy wants to go to war. So he was great for me to negotiate with. The same thing with Russia. You know, when Putin saw him, I'd be very nice. I'd say, hi, Vladimir, how you doing? And then Putin's, 2 rows back, and he'd see that moron, and he'd say, holy shit, this guy wants to go to war with me. And I got a lot of what I wanted. You know, we killed, as you know, the Nord Stream 2. I killed Nord Stream 2.
Well, in point of fact,
but I said, don't go in.
In point of fact, Bolton killed Nord Stream 1, I think. With their divers. So anyway, some fire being thrown around by Matt Gaetz this morning. I just thought I would share that. I didn't have that on the list, but yeah, that goes to policy shifts.
Sciatica. Thank you. It's almost as if the man wrote a fucking book about it and then literally operates every single time in the exact way that he says he would in his book. It's
no, there was a ghostwriter. He didn't write anything. No.
Well, I think that one of the big reasons why Trump got so much support from these low propensity voters, just these kind of working class guys who generally don't vote, is exactly how he was communicating right there with Tucker. I mean, he's okay, so he's crude. Who cares? I mean, he's telling you exactly what all these motherfuckers talk about. He's talking exactly how Obama and Bush and all these motherfuckers talk about in the back rooms, right? He's just doing it out in the open, right? And this is the reason why, and this is the world in which people respond to long form interviews, social media, reality TV, right? This is the world we live in. And he is the president for the audience that is currently interested in trying to make the world a better place, even if it's just in the micro for their own kids. The Trump clip was fire. All right.
It really was.
Any other kind of Trump policy shifts you guys want to talk about before we jump into all the hate he's getting?
Yeah. We already brought up Tulsi, but listen, guys, it's almost as if there's a pattern. It's like he's putting people in charge of government agencies that explicitly wronged them.
Yeah.
Hunch, like land some scunion down on the chat. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you,
10 gifted memberships. I hope you had the free membership thing turned on, because that's how you get it. Hey, real quick, I think I missed a member chat up here. Limey 0614, member for 12 months, says they can all learn to code. Yeah, this is all the people who get fired out of the federal government.
Good.
I remember that one now.
I remain skeptical of Tulsi being useful or helpful for anything, but in the way that matters, I guess. What I am worried about with her. Well, okay, look, I understand there is one thing that Tulsi will always be useful for. All right. But that has very little to do with governance. That's all I'm saying. But in the world of the damage she could do, hopefully she's over there doing that damage in that place that she is, at least hypothetically, going to be in charge of.
Well, the irony is
keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right?
You weren't here when I made the case for DNI as might be the perfect position for her, right? So, what does Tulsi bring to a Trump cabinet? Well, I don't know. She may be way more capable. And
come on, she's got.
I have no
assets.
Large lands, right? I got it.
Land.
Yeah. So honestly, they're not that big, but like, I don't know. I'm going to say that outside of just being a moderate Democrat, which is already a strike against her, she may have some competency that I'm not aware of, but she has a big following of people, kind of she is the Bernie bros of this election are the Tulsi bros, right? And she has a constituency that follows her, and these people, to the extent that they will now support and follow Trump, okay, that's all for the better, right? So how do you put her in your administration without letting her damage things? Well, you give her a position that has neither any real organizational attachment to anything else. Like a middleman. So the director of national intelligence is a very small little box that talks to a much bigger box and has 18 or 17 or whatever other boxes that it basically routes emails through, puts together briefings and then sends them to the big box at the White House, right? This may be perfect for her, Don, because she literally can't fuck anything up.
Well, so that's my hope as well, right? Is that the damage that she is likely to do if she is ever given power in this country is all about domestic policy, and DNI is inherently limiting on what she can do there.
Right.
And that she is anti-war implies that when whatever is left, hopefully, of the DNI shows up and says, hey, Iran has a nuclear weapon in New York, she's going to be like, okay, we'll prove it before we launch missiles. And that is probably not a terrible thing. But the problem being she remains ridiculously popular with a certain contingent of this country. And if she is ever let anywhere near POTUS or VP, we're probably screwed.
Now, but here's the thing. Like,
if I may,
go ahead.
I see what you're saying. I will say though, there are a lot of other names on the other side of the quadrant that I'd be far less happy to see. You know what I'm saying? She's not the worst of all options available, and I wonder if part of the strategy here is to try and selectively build up opposition to the far leftists on that side.
Look,
she's mostly popular with the Bernie Bros, who are socialist, yes, but largely the populist wing of that party, and I think that is what the connection is hopefully trying to be.
This is like saying it is better to go to doc with a cauliflower hanging off the front of you than it is with a positive AIDS test. And while that is true, I would like to avoid both.
So, here's the other thing that I when it comes to this type of thing, I am open to it, but I am always skeptical, right? Because, politics is almost as much about deception as it is about compromise, which are two things that people like us tend to fucking hate. And that I am open to the idea that she may have gone through in the absolute fucking, bunkhouse beating that she got from the Democratic Party following her run for presidency in 2020. I am open to the idea that she may have had a legitimate conversion experience and seeing that, holy shit, the fucking neo-Marxists now control my party. What, where the fuck did I spend the war, and the party left me that quickly? And so now there may, in order for her to be a Republican, that she has said she's a Republican, so it's just a matter of signing the card and you're a Republican. But there are certain kind of things that you have to do. And she has vocally supported the Second Amendment. Okay, that's vocally supporting the Second Amendment. That doesn't mean I trust her on it, because she may decide that, well, just because I support the Second Amendment doesn't mean that we shouldn't have common sense gun safety, right?
I was going to say, according to Biden, he supports the Second Amendment. So
right. Well, and Biden sounds like he does crazier shit with his shotguns and shooting random rounds off into the neighborhood. But okay, so let's
you got to keep the property values down somehow. All right,
let's take her at her word, right? She may say she supports the First Amendment and that and she has actually said that, right? And I do believe that, because basically the only way she's been able to fight back is with her channels on social media. And she's been very effective in that. And then, of course, the Second Amendment goes hand in hand with the First Amendment. And then beyond that, if you had to name a third litmus test issue for a Republican in the modern era, right, it would be what?
Well, presumably tax breaks.
Well, I would say smaller government and all that kind of stuff.
I would say,
other people would argue it's abortion. So there, maybe that's the first five things, right? First Amendment, Second Amendment, pro-life, tax breaks, and smaller government, right? So if you can get her on four of those five things, then I would believe that she has had a legitimate conversion experience. But if she gun safety, and she says, oh, well, it's the women's right to choose, and is really healthcare, right? Okay, so she says healthcare and gun safety, then she's out automatically, no matter what she does. No, so I don't know, I haven't heard her talk about that stuff. I am not a Tulsi bro. I don't sit there and listen to her. So I don't know if she works for Donald Trump. Hey man, it's his presidency, right? I don't know.
So the healthcare thing is why.
It's the same kind of thing with Vivek, right? Now Vivek, I'm further down the track of believing he's had a legitimate conversion experience, because there's a lot of shit in his background that really makes me question him. But he would have to be about the most duplicitous motherfucker in modern politics in order to have a heel turn after where he's going.
Well, so
go ahead.
The healthcare thing is a great example because we all like to forget that her presidential campaign was universal healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So, and notably, she does not talk about it at all, ever. And because she's popular, nobody asks her about it, right? And so the issue that you have here is that, and nobody likes this, but I do it all the time. If you think universal healthcare is a good idea, then you are demonstrating a worldview. And that worldview is that the government is here to save you from things. And if the government is here to save you from things, I don't care how good your intentions are, we're all going to return to the 14 scariest words in the English language or whatever the hell it is. I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right? And she demonstrates this problem a lot. And forgive me here, but her, my conversion moment on guns is pretty weak titty, honestly. But my crew went to go, my security team went to go get a concealed carry and they got denied. And so suddenly I think that, private citizens should have machine guns. No, that didn't happen. Stop it. All right. Because that is her claim. All right. And okay, maybe she thinks that concealed carry reciprocity is a good idea all of a sudden or whatever. But she didn't, I've been saying for a decade that, common sense gun reform is a great idea, but also I took 25 videos of me shooting an AR. And so now stop asking me about gun policy. No. All right. And by the way, where she came from is pretty notably hypocritical about whether or not they think, they should be able to have M16s versus whether or not you should. So I don't find any of this to be particularly compelling in her, but I had this massive conversion. I will grant that she probably does hate all of the people who put her on the no-fly list and all of the people who objectively killed her run for president for entirely political reasons because they wanted to put Biden up there to be a puppet. But that I don't think that, and I've listened to her talk about things that supposedly happened while she was in the DNC. She got abused in various ways by the party in the background. But I want all of you to stop and think about that because she says stuff like, well, in 2006, I showed up and they did all of this horrible stuff. And then you stayed a Democrat for the next decade. All right. Clearly, this didn't actually bother you that much. Otherwise, you would have left then.
Facts. Also, I have to say, I keep seeing comments like this. And listen, if you won't listen to me, maybe you'll listen to one of them. All right. Here, directly from Shoe on Head.
And no, you cannot fix them.
No.
Well, considering the Shoe on Head is literally the Tulsi Gabbard of conservative voices.
That's what I'm saying. Directly for that. I'm not even taking that quote out of context either. That is literally what she was saying. Is conservative men, no, you cannot fix these heartbeats.
Let's go to your Project Veritas video, because talk about a way to show the world how much they hate Trump. I think this is pretty interesting. And Don, I'm curious to get your take on this. Let's play the video and then see what this says, because I haven't heard the video yet, so I'm hearing it for the first time here.
Slaughtered. I would say like a good portion of people there are squatting. Like what percentage? In my opinion, like 90%.
But what do you do?
Go to the UN.
Right.
I look at innovation and peacekeeping. So obviously we have missions across the world where we, in theory, are trying to keep conflict at bay.
Amazing.
And it's also it's a people game, right? Like we have peacekeepers on the ground.
So people are employees at the UN that actually don't work.
At the point, and people every single day at the end of the building, I'm going to work.
Really?
Well, lazy people.
Really?
It's an environment where, again, you have a stable job. You're not going to be fired. You also don't get evaluated. I mean, only if you make money in the UN is if you like go to war. I work for a country, you get more. You get paid more.
Really?
Hazard pay. You know, if you're living in like Darfur and you could die, they're gonna pay you more.
Amazing. Like, you're wondering why you've got the perspective of seeing these lazy workers in the UN and the benefits that they are making. Like, how does that stick with you? I must hate it.
I don't hate it, but like I gave both of them.
All right, push pause.
UN funds a lot of squad.
Okay, so all right, so this is not nearly as interesting as I thought it was going to be, because what he's basically saying is that people that work in the bureaucrats, the UN, first of all, you're a UN bureaucrat. I mean, that is kind of like a oxymoron in and of itself. An organization that has no power has bureaucrats who do what exactly? They literally shuffle paperwork from one office to the other and probably back, and then somebody holds it up. And then, anyway, and so there's that, right?
This was framed poorly by.
And the other thing he said is, oh, well, the way we make money is by going to war. Well, what he's saying is that the UN has jobs in conflict zones. And if you go and do one of those jobs, it's probably an easy job and you make a shit ton of money because it's like, you know, it's a conflict zone. It's hazardous duty pay, right? Yeah. So, this is.
Yeah, the Project Veritas framed this very poorly.
Well,
surprise.
Lance Corporal Veteran says, funny how it's always gay leakers now. You said it, not me, brother.
You said it, not us.
All right. Let's go back to the regularly scheduled program.
So if we're going to go after the UN, can we by chance take a look at all of the conflict zones they go to where suddenly rape claims explode every single time that they have boots on the ground? Every weird, right? Single time. Huh. I mean, I get it. This is probably the wrong panel of people to be like, oh my God, they get more money when they go to war. Because guess what? All of us got more money when we went to war.
When we went to war. That's a good
you know, I got
tax-free and a lot more. Yeah, exactly right.
You know what I mean? Like, it was not an insubstantial pay increase. Now, that said, okay, if you know what hazardous duty pay is, this is kind of like meh. On the other hand, and when I say every single time, I mean if the UN sets boots on the ground somewhere tomorrow, you have to wait somewhere between 6 months and 2 years before hundreds and hundreds of women will show up and be like, yeah, so they showed up and just raped the hell out of us. That's what will happen 100% of the time for at least my lifetime.
Correct.
And it doesn't surprise me that this was Project Veritas, which is still operating, right? Not Jace O'Keefe's OMG. All right, let's jump into this next story here. Democratic governors create a coalition to push back against Trump policies. Big surprise.
Right.
And,
well, particularly Governor one here, that's J.B. Pritzker. That is the family that is the #1 funder of transgender propaganda in America. Weird.
Oh yeah, this is probably as good a face of any to represent the milquetoast branch of the transnational death cult of Malthusian a-holes. Governors of Illinois, Colorado, both Democrats, have announced a formation of a new alliance to resist President-elect Donald Trump's policies just a week before he is set to assume office. The irony is that, Don, somebody who has had interactions with federal law enforcement lately, the local law enforcement can say, "Oh, we're not going to help you," but they can't stop the federal law enforcement from going into the state and doing their job, right? And
so yes, they can. Sheriffs in particular have this capability. Your local police department does not.
Well, it even still, it's more of a speed bump than it is a roadblock. I mean, ultimately, you can't protect people in your jurisdiction from federal prosecution.
From prosecution, no, but from the federal shenanigans, yes. I happen to know a January 6er who the FBI came to his sheriff and said, "Hey, we're gonna go 5 a.m. raid this guy," and the sheriff went, "No, you're not. We are going to go over there right now, and if you try, I'm going to arrest you, just so you know. So we're going to go over there right now. We're going to have a conversation about this, and if I'm wrong, then it'll be me in the gunfight. But I'm not wrong. I don't care. And we're gonna, he'll turn himself in peacefully. Don't worry about it, right?" And
yeah,
so
like I said,
to get in the way.
Well, like I said, they could. It's really more of a roadblock than it is some sort of a. Now that being said, I mean, the more bully boy they go, the more kind of options the sheriff would have, because then you could say, like, well, this is violence, and I can arrest you for this because you're breaking our laws. But ultimately, if the federal government under the Trump administration wants to go into Colorado and to Illinois and do things right, as long as they kind of do it the right way, especially if they coordinate with local law enforcement and kind of bypass the state, I mean, I don't see that it's going to be a big, like, for instance, the one that I'm thinking off the top of my head, ICE. I don't think ICE is going to have any trouble in sanctuary areas operating. They just may not have the implicit, or they may have a police that wants to help, but is being told that they can't help, but they also don't have to hinder them either. So the alliance named the Governors Safeguarding Democracy is being billed as a nonpartisan coalition of governors who will work together to prevent authoritarianism. Okay. And the undermining of democratic institutions. You mean like the presidency where you got the popular vote? Including executive agencies, elections, and state courts, according to November 13th statement announcing the group. Through the through the group, governors will leverage their unique legislative and budgetary, executive, and administrative powers to deliver results to the American people. The alliance will also develop playbooks to enable governors and their teams to anticipate and swiftly respond to emerging threats. Now, I will admit there is a lot of stuff that state governments can do to disrupt and stymie the plans of the feds, kind of writ large. And a great example is what Florida and Texas did with the migrants that were just dropped on their front doors. That's just one example I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, guys, I'm sure you can think of some others.
Indeed. I think that's less important than how to actually get this done, though. Specifically because they are giant fans of protecting illegals. Just start filing RICO charges. Has any illegal gang member, killed any American citizen? Yep. So that effectively meets the bar of RICO. Now you are aiding and abetting, right? At bare minimum, and this is what RICO is for those who don't remember, is going after gangs who are dangerous to American citizens. And that danger requirement was originally set up as, has anybody died? And since somebody's already died, well, enjoy, governors.
Yeah. So, the alliance was unveiled as multiple leaders from the Democratic Party vowed to uphold various policies related to the access to abortion, climate. I don't know what states can do about climate. Diversity programs and LGBT issues following the former president's election win. What would be interesting
states
is
can do about climate what states have been doing about climate for a long time, which is strategically and purposefully killing off any industry that exists within their state.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's interesting is if the federal government were to find novel constitutional ways that are linked directly to the Constitution and individual rights to then go in and specifically limit, say, like trans stuff against children and things like this, that would line up an interesting conflict between the states. Because I think that would be
They certainly
constitutional
can.
on the part of the federal government. I just don't. I'm not enough of a constitutional scholar to be able to articulate that now. But it seems to me sterilizing children would be against the constitutional rights of these children.
So the Constitution doesn't have a lot to say on this subject, truth be told.
That's what I'm saying.
There
may be some novel way to kind of get to that.
Well, the thing that the Constitution does have to say about this is the 10th Amendment, which will be on the side of the left here.
The states, right.
However, and I don't know how else to say this, by all means, dear leftists, resurrect the 10th Amendment, please.
Yeah. Well, but what doesn't the 9th Amendment kind of, you could kind of hang your hat a little bit there because, and that kind of goes to the individual, right? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I presume
Constitution right here.
I presume you're thinking more the 8th, cruel and unusual punishment type things.
Maybe that's it.
But the rights listed in the Constitution do not deny or disparage other rights that are retained by the people. I don't know that has. I mean,
yeah.
Look, I understand that specifically during the Warren Court era, the 9th Amendment meant everything. But one, Warren is gone.
Right.
And two, you're sort of dependent on Roberts to suddenly decide that the 9th Amendment protects genital integrity. Like, that's not good luck to you.
Well, the interesting thing there is it's kind of like, so the child can't consent to something like that. So if the parents don't want it to happen, then it should ultimately follow up on the parents. But if it's the parents who have this kind of bizarre Munchausen by proxy and it's supported by the state and they want to chemically castrate their prepubescent children, that's what I'm kind of getting at. It's like, so at what point do we stop a state from having the ability to commit a crime against, somebody who can't consent in any form or fashion to something like that?
Well, welcome to why this is such a gigantic problem, right? On the one hand, we're going to go out there and crusade and say you should have the right to raise your children how you want. And on the other hand, we're going to say, well, except, right? Well, guess what that exception is going to be? That exception is going to be everything you want with the next leftist administration.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to tell you that this is a good thing or that we should we should let people trans the kids based on some basic ideology of hey, let parents raise their kids how they want, but understand what is coming down the road, because that is what's coming down the road. And I don't know about any of the rest of you, but my faith in Congress, the House and the Senate, to generate a bill that says, hey, you're allowed to raise your children how you want, except transing the kids, is not particularly high. And truth be told, if the last administration is any example, Trump's capability to look at these things and veto them because they're written badly is limited. Now, he does have different people around him, and a lot of those people are substantially better. So hopefully we can bank on that.
Yeah. Hey, all right. So, but anyway, there's all kinds of ways, though, these states could band together and cause trouble, for the administration. But ultimately, I think what this will do, it will show both of these states, Colorado, well, less so Colorado, but still Colorado's mostly hangs its hat. It's blue state status on its cities, right? Specifically Denver and Boulder are the two that come to mind that are really blue areas. And then a lot of red throughout, to include Colorado Springs, Pueblo, the other kind of, was it number 3 and number 4 cities in Colorado are red cities, right? And then Illinois is exactly the same thing, right? Well, no, it's not exactly the same. It's a blue Chicago and it's a red state, right?
Yeah.
It's this type of stuff that will just continue to drag these vestigial Democrats, right, who are now neo-Marxist, down into the mire until the point where even the people in the blue strongholds aren't going to support them anymore. And it's kind of like guaranteeing, it's like somebody said, oh, well, Kamala is going to become the governor of California. I'm like, good. Let her become that. You imagine how red California would be after 4 years of Kamala as the governor.
I mean, you say that, but do you know who the current governor of California is?
Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. To follow Newsom? Are you kidding me? It could only get worse. Because he seems like he has at least 2 brain cells to rub together. He doesn't seem super smart, but he's way smarter than she is. Imagine handing that shit sandwich off to somebody like Kamala. It only gets worse from there. It's kind of like being in debt, right? Your debt just compounds interest into oblivion, right?
I don't know that there's a track record of that. This is basically the accelerationist view, right? To be limited to California, mind you. When I, a million years ago, was young in California, you could go to San Francisco and spend the day there without finding human feces, needles, getting stabbed, any of these things.
Yeah.
You cannot do that now. All right. Do you know where Newsom came from? He was the mayor of San Francisco.
Oh, I know. And the sad thing is he knows they can fix it because they showed us when the G came to town, because they fixed it for a week and then all of a sudden they let it go right back to hell.
Right. And by the way, that is a policy that is well known in California. It has been, I used to live basically in Sacramento. And so when something, the New Year's parade or something that San Francisco wanted to be pretty, something that they could put on the news that they thought was important, every single time that happened, all of the homeless in San Francisco somehow ended up in Sacramento. Happened every single time. And that has been for 20 some years now, right? California is very aware that these problems are fixable for those that pay any attention. And I don't think it is the case that, you could hit Kamala in the head with a brick, making her hypothetically even dumber, and put her in charge of California. And I don't know that it would change anything. And that is primarily because back in the early 2000s, there was a guy who was crusading around California saying, hey, look, I'm checking on these votes. Here I am standing in front of this field that has a mailbox, doesn't even have a house, but it has a mailbox, and 250 votes came from this place. Anyone want to explain this?
Yeah. Well, and then Act Blue, right? That's another one I hope they investigate. Act Blue is basically saying that, like this lady has given over $200,000 worth of $25 campaign, and she's like, what? I don't even have $2,500, much less $25,000 to give.
Right.
There is a lot of corruption that Matt Gaetz has got a lot of.
Oh, man.
Just spent a lot of time fixing up. All right, let's go on to the next one here. So this is kind of along the same lines, right? Los Angeles mayor pushes for official sanctuary city status before Trump assumes office. She looks like a peach, doesn't she? Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has said on Monday that her city doesn't have a law officially designating it as a sanctuary for illegal immigrants. Bass has said past policies related to the status of Los Angeles were never codified into law. Let's see. I imagine the council will be voting on sanctuary cities hopefully very soon. We will stand with the immigrant community and whatever policy they put forward. We will make sure that people in Los Angeles are not hurt and families are not separated. The city council approved a motion in July 2023 calling on various city departments to take steps for it to become a sanctuary city. And then in 2024, another. So they are tried to do it, but clearly for some reason they haven't done it. It's almost like they want to be able to say we're a sanctuary city, but then actually never be a sanctuary city, which, talk about having your cake and eating it too.
Well, California.
I know, right? It's not because how are we going to clean up all the squatters in front of the Man's Chinese Theater when it's Oscar time? I mean, it's sanctuary city doesn't help us do that. It's not a question of price tag. Trump told it says we have no choice, which I'm selling you guys on his policy. That's not. I'm preaching to the choir. Trump recently tapped Tom Homan, former God. I love that guy. We played a video of him, laying Scunion down earlier in the show, so we don't need to kind of cover that ground again. But man, he's a good dude. In the meantime, Homan urged for other illegal immigrants to self-deport, saying it's just a matter of time before they're caught and removed from the country. From his lips to God's ears. Guys, what's your kind of take on like these cities that are absolutely going just? There's no way this is going to help their citizens.
They should immediately lose all federal funding. That's my stance.
That's going to be hard to do. Just because of the way federal funding is distributed. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I am all for the way that you cut off Los Angeles' federal funding, which is to say you cut it off to the state of California. However,
I think with Los Angeles, you cut off their water.
So that, I mean, you'd be in court in 5 seconds and you'd probably lose.
Okay. Well, I'll take that chance, and for the 28 days minimum it'll take for the court to process that, enjoy.
I'm unsure that would be the case. You can file for an injunction on day one.
Yeah, notice
That's
how
fine, but look, the Democrats have taught us that if you want to drag out court filings, you can drag out court filings.
Ish. I mean, it's
sounds
not,
like I don't want to get too flamey here.
Well, no, understand what you're dealing with, right? The most generous case, and I do mean this unironically, is that you go to the Ninth Circuit and say, hey, there's been an agreement between the federal government and us to do blah, 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 and this puts lives in danger. The government doesn't have a vested interest in putting lives in danger, and so we want you to turn the water back on. We want a federal injunction until the case can be sorted out, until such time they're not allowed to shut the water off to Los Angeles. And unless you somehow get to SCOTUS on the appeal of that injunction, and SCOTUS goes, yeah, shut the water off to Los Angeles, which is also not an amazing argument, then the injunction will stand even if they lose over a lengthy period of time.
All right, let's move on to our next. You know what? I'm having.
Watcher,
can you open that story?
Sure, but real quick, as we're transitioning, I'll just say, well, all we got to do is tell them it's to help the salmon migrations.
Who Trump put in charge of the EPA?
I know, right? Republican senators say Matt Gaetz has a steep hill to climb to nomination. Several want access to the House ethics report on allegations of sexual misconduct, so that you could see that there was nothing there. I mean, we already kind of saw some tweets from Matt Gaetz kind of telling his side of this, but okay, yeah, whatever. Let's go for it. Republican senators signaled Thursday that they plan to closely scrutinize allegations of wrongdoing, dogging Trump's pick to lead the Justice Department. You don't think Trump hasn't looked at those allegations? Former Congressman Matt Gaetz setting up a potential showdown between the president-elect and the GOP-controlled Senate. Gaetz resigned Wednesday, effectively ending a House Ethics Committee investigation into allegations that he may have engaged in sexual misconduct and illegal drug use and accepted improper gifts. But several Republican senators said they want to access the investigation as well as any information the FBI would uncover in a background check as part of a confirmation. You know what? I actually don't have a problem with this. I think that we should vet. There should be some sort of a vetting process for people who are going to, if you're going to advise and consent, you should at least know what you're consenting to, right?
Hold on a minute on the scrolling, because that top right there is very important.
Which one?
So, do you know who's in the center of that picture?
Oh, yeah. Cornyn.
I know who's in the center of that picture. He's my senator, and he is at best hot garbage. That is the most generous take that I can give you. If I was to put you, Scott, in charge of this vetting, I would be perfectly content with, hey, man, well, let's look over this and find out if it's real. That guy is a
Cornyn,
disgusting
absolutely.
scumbag. The premise that he is going to take a look at allegations that, in fact, proved Gaetz innocent, right, in a exonerated kind of way, and come to the conclusion that, oh, hey, we already did this, so he's exonerated, so let's move on. I find facetious. Let's put it that way.
He's gonna litigate this in the public eye, through the news media. The problem is that everything that if Gaetz is smart, what he'll do is he'll release the exact same information on X and other kind of social platforms where people can fully see exactly what Cornyn's. He's going to do that, really deceptive, and then Matt Gaetz ... harass ... 15 women, right? And leaving out all the words in between those other words.
Sure. Well, so here's the problem, right? This is not a trial. Right. Gaetz is not innocent until proven guilty. This is an entirely political move, as the discussion about who is going to lead the Senate probably has told you. Hey, we'll just have a nice, quiet vote about this. And then, somehow or another, enough people to get Gaetz over the line will just be absent from the Senate hearing on his confirmation. They won't even vote against him. They just won't show up. And then it'll be, 46 Dems or whatever it is, versus the probably Cornyn, who's a giant wiener face, who will show up and say, hey, well, I think that Matt Gaetz is a terrible person.
Well, the interesting thing is they said here, this Kevin Kramer says, for me, the message to the administration is simply that Matt Gaetz has a very long, steep hill to get across the finish line. And it will require spending a lot of capital. So he's basically saying you can do it, but it's going to be like, you're going to have to give up a lot of markers in order to get that one in, right? The ethics report is clearly going to be part of the record. Okay, right, gotcha. Now, what he's thinking is the Trump from 2016, right? The Trump that was inexperienced, the Trump that didn't have okay, if you kill Gaetz, I've got another guy. I've literally got another guy ready to go, because I guarantee he has another guy ready to go. And then, oh, by the way, Elon Musk has publicly come out and said that his PAC will continue to operate. It won't just only operate for elections, and that they will absolutely target for what's the word? Primary. They will target to primary anybody who basically, especially Republicans who seek to kind of derail Trump's mandate. Right? The people gave Trump a mandate, and these motherfuckers have a duty to do their fucking job. And I'll be honest with you, I want to see Trump get Godfather-like with some of these people and give them an offer that they can't refuse in order to get along with the fucking program. I got a feeling that he's already done that with Thune, and that's the reason why Thune has, despite his record, has come out, and eagerly supported, Trump's. But just because he says it in one press conference doesn't mean it's true. But I get the feeling that Trump's already working behind the scenes on that one. And the other thing too is I'm willing to give anybody if he says he's going to do the right thing, if I'm willing to give him an opportunity to show himself. But then,
oh man. All right, I am not willing to give Cornyn in particular the opportunity.
I'll be honest with you. When I heard it was Thune and Cornyn were basically who it was, I wanted Rick Scott. I mean, I thought Rick Scott would have been great. I don't agree with everything Rick Scott's done, but at the same time, for this gig, I was way over the moon for Rick Scott over the other two. That being said, if you give me a choice between Thune and Cornyn, I go with Thune.
I would like to take the opportunity to say something that is rarely said here, and that is I'm actually quite disappointed that Rand Paul did not put himself forward for the position. I don't know that it would have happened, but he would have represented, in my opinion, the only logical choice.
I don't think he could have got the support. I mean, Rand Paul, the problem with in a body like the Senate is when you are a truth teller, you don't tend to get super popular. And that's just unfortunate,
Facts.
right?
Facts. It doesn't mean you don't run for it.
Yeah, I got it. But he probably he doesn't, it's kind of like the juice for him probably isn't worth the squeeze. It says here, Republican senators understand that Trump wants to shake up how the Justice Department is run. Matt's a wrecking ball, and he's a very eloquent wrecking ball, Kramer said. But Gaetz' scandals and confrontation with members of his own party dating. Oh, so here's the thing. They're going to say, oh, well, he didn't play nice with Kevin McCarthy. Well, because Kevin McCarthy was a fucking snake. And I get the feeling that Kevin McCarthy is going to try to kind of poison the well on this one. I kind of hope he tries to do that.
Honestly,
and it comes out. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Watcher.
Well, honestly, it means that an all-out attack needs to be launched against the McCarthyite wing of the party, like flat out. Like we have just an idea, right? Some of those campaign funds that Trump brags about having enough left over to be able to pay off Kamala's campaign debt and is willing to do so could be used to say, oh, I don't know, set the record straight about exactly what that piece of shit did the entire first 4 years.
Yeah.
It's weird. All those funds are discretionary at this point. It's almost as if they have whole media teams that could work up documentaries about what happened.
Let's see. Yeah, here we go. John Cornyn. Let's see what he says. John Cornyn, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, would hold Gaetz' confirmation here. He told reporters that he would absolutely like to have access to the report's findings. I don't see any relative information that should be withheld. We also have resources of the FBI to do a background investigation as well. So one way or the other, as you know, the facts will ultimately come out. So he's clearly, and then of course you've got like fucking Susan Collins and Tom Tillis, these wet rags are gonna. I mean, you're gonna get to know these names very well over the next 2 years because they're going to be the ones that consistently are a problem. Now, for the most part, they'll let Trump do most of the things he wants to do, but they are going to extract a fucking price for it. And I get the feeling that people are going to remember their names, and we'll see what happens there.
Look, we'll find out in 2026 if Trump is out there campaigning against the Lindsey Grahams, against the John Cornyns, and he should be, right? And by the way, it's not just a guess. Cornyn is up for re-election in 26. And dear Texas, I love you to death. Can we finally get rid of this man, please?
Yeah. All right. So guys, that's all the serious news.
Just a
that
fun
we
little.
have
Well, yeah. I've got a fun little side one real quick. Just breaking news: Disney, IBM, Comcast, Warner Brothers, Discovery, Lionsgate Entertainment will all be resuming advertising activity on X. However, Lizzo's leaving X, so by net weight, it's roughly even.
That's true. So, yeah, I noticed that all of a sudden, now that this is the case, we've got all these big corporate backers coming back to X, right? Well, let's be honest. They're like, well, wait a second. If X can get President Trump reelected, then maybe we should be, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't ignore the majority of the American people.
Well,
and X has only gotten more numbers since the election.
I think,
and MSNBC and CNN are both down upwards of 40%, and just absolutely destroyed in the key demos since the election.
Well, here's I'm all happy, as it were, with those idiot companies giving Elon Musk their money. Hopefully they do that on their way to declaring bankruptcy and getting cut up in pieces and thrown out the window.
I mean, I disavow
the company, not the people. You weirdo.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you can say like Ma Bell of the past.
Well, the stock, you're talking about taking the company's stock and cutting it up and throwing it.
Look, man, I don't care if we actually take Disney World and section it out into pieces and put it up for auction. That's fine by me.
PDSJ's helicopter tours for $5 says, why insist on playing checkers when people playing chess? After the last 4 years, why are we asking? Biden ignored the courts on student loans, adjourned the Senate, and forced appointments to Gaetz, then target them. Yeah, adjourn the Senate. Yeah, I think that's Gaetz is going to get in because he's going to do a recess appointment for him. So I'm not worried about that one or the other. It'll be interesting if they hold up his confirmation. It will be interesting to see how short shift the rhinos get from the DOJ. It would be shocking if some things were to come out. All right, guys. The election has given us a lot of great memes so far. There are almost too many to list, but I'll be honest with you. I tweeted this out today that this was the funniest thing that I'd seen all day. And so if we can open that last one up. This is an actual Zero Hedge story about this video, which is hilarious. In a hilarious parody at. Actually, you know what? Let's just watch the video first, and then we'll just talk about it.
Are you distraught after the recent presidential election? Here at Don't Cry Cryo, we understand your pain, and we're here to help. Our expert team of cryogenic care providers can cryogenically freeze you until the Trump presidency has ended. No more crying. No more anxiety attacks, just blissful sleep until Trump is gone. When you awaken from your slumber, we'll even have a party ready and waiting for you. It will be like his presidency never even happened. It was all just a bad dream. As an added bonus, you can choose the Vance add-on package. We'll extend your sleep for an additional 4 years at a 50% discount in the event J.D. Vance wins the next presidential election. Everything will be okay. We're here to take care of you in your time of need. So remember, don't cry, cryo.
I wish this was real.
There's a stinger. No, go back. No. Keep playing. There's a stinger. Keep playing.
Oh, yeah.
Where am I? Oh, please tell me it's over. Wait, something isn't right.
This is your captain, Elon Musk. I want to be the first one to welcome you to Mars. Sorry, Donald Trump Jr. was just elected president, and he deported all Don't Cry Cryo customers to Mars.
What the?
I love it. Nice. That's definitely the best use of AI in a while.
We need this company to be real. That's all I'm saying.
I know. We absolutely.
Talk to Elon.
Yeah, I think this should be a Super Bowl ad.
Oh man, yes, please.
Yeah, that's great. All right, guys. We are going on. Jesus Christ, we're going on 3 hours. I got you gotta love it when you can talk without looking at the clock, and it's 3 hours just like that. So we covered a lot of ground today. Let's just be honest. Well, let's be honest, guys. The last week has been probably one of the most entertaining and enjoyable weeks in I don't know how long. But so what does that mean, Don? That means that the other shoe is getting ready to drop.
So I know that is standard political doomerism. I mean wisdom. But here's the deal: unless something goes wildly out the window, sometime.
Yeah, Black Swan kind of swan. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I guess they could assassinate Trump, right? But that's pretty much it. What else are we? make no mistake, I have a lot of complaints about a lot of things and like, hey, we should do X, Y, and Z better. But in the end, things are still getting better. Things are getting better without Trump even being in office. So,
yeah,
this should be reminiscent of 2016, at least post him winning and pre him getting into office. And that don't listen to my various complaints. And I see you chat. No blackpilling. That's not the point, right?
Mhm.
Drive Trump to do greater things. Not and I know how the internet is. Oh, you have any complaint about anything, therefore everything is terrible. No, internet, stop it right now. The other shoe is not about to drop. We're not all about to be catapulted into the sun or any of these other kinds of crazy things, unless something truly dramatic happens. Which, by the way, if they assassinate Trump, Vance is president. All right, do you understand how incredibly ridiculously bad this would be for the powers that be, which is why I was so happy when he nominated Vance way back when. And what was the primary thing that I said? Vance is the world's best assassination insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there, because here's the thing. Donald Trump has learned to become based, right? He wasn't born that way, right? I mean, he was always pretty interesting, but let's be honest, he was a Democrat. He was a New York Democrat, right? Or maybe he was a New York conservative, which means he was a Democrat.
Yeah.
And okay, so fair enough, right? And he allowed himself to be surrounded by a bunch of neocons, right? And okay, so he has learned a lot of his lessons, and now he's way better, and we're seeing the benefits of that, right? But JD Vance starts there, right? And then for a guy like him, it'll only get better, right? And so I'm with you. I think I think that JD Vance is potentially set. I don't know that he can be the heir apparent in 4 years, but he sure as hell is gonna. If Trump uses him the way I think he'll use him, he will definitely be set up for success going forward. I don't know. I mean, real quick, let's round the horn. Who do you think is the best option in 4 years?
Oh man.
I know it's way too early. I mean, we're clearly spitballing here.
For the moment, Vance. If only because everybody else is pretty much gone. And before Rand Paul. Okay. He is going to win just as many presidential elections as Ron Paul. And you don't have to like that, but for the moment, that is true.
Yeah, he's not.
Right.
He's also not going to run for it again. He's made that pretty clear.
Well, I mean, I think you've got a pretty good cadre of people who our names will be listening to for the next 20 years, right? The other interesting thing too is everybody's complained about why don't we have younger leaders? Well, Trump has finally given you younger leaders, and everybody's fucking complaining about it. Oh, he doesn't have, Pete doesn't have the experience, or JD doesn't have.
My absolute favorite has got to be. He didn't work for Raytheon, so can we really trust him to make decisions about our defense spending?
That's exactly. What does he really know? He hasn't worked. Well, Watcher, that just goes to show you the depth of just their lack of ability to see beyond their own four walls.
Well, understand that you're talking about two different groups of people. I know we like to aggregate the internet, right? But if John Bolton is coming out and saying this, X person is terrible, that is not the same person who's saying we need younger leadership. those two things have never both come out of his mouth, right? And this is generally true amongst all of the groups that are on either side here, right? The we need younger leadership crowd, probably because the internet loves to complain, has their various complaints about any of these people, but those complaints are not, generally speaking, he's unqualified, right?
Mm-hmm.
This does not mean you won't find morons who are like, but we need 9-year-olds in office. And by the way, Matt Gaetz is unqualified. That person probably exists. It's the internet. Never underestimate how stupid somebody on the internet can be, because they will disappoint you appropriately. That said, the the boomers don't want to give up control of the government thing is real enough in this sense, right? All of those people who are out there screaming about qualifications are in fact the people that everybody's wanted out of office for the past at least.
But this has been something the oligarchs have used for a long time. This whole idea of credentialism, right? Oh, well, you don't have a advanced degree, so why should we listen to you? Or you only have a master's? Give me a break. You know, what do you know? You didn't go to you didn't go to Harvard. This is the reason why I loved it when people were throwing, oh, you don't think Pete is good enough? Well, Harvard
and Princeton both.
You know, 2 Bronze Stars. How many Bronze Stars do you have? You know, multiple combat tours, you know, 2 veteran organizations that he rose to leadership within, you know, and so it was just, by the way, you're going to criticize him for being on Fox News. All these people do everything they can to sell out to be on MSNBC and CNN. And invariably, they were literally people on CNN and MSNBC criticizing him for being on Fox News.
So I will take the win, as it were, on the death of credentialism when everybody stops saying he went to Harvard and Princeton. The right answer is he pulled triggers under these policies. Deal with it.
Correct. That's
right.
That's actually the more qualifying thing, to be very honest.
But the irony, though, is always when they throw something at you, like, for instance, popular vote. Well, Trump won the popular vote. Well, we shouldn't care about the popular vote. I know, but Trump still won the popular vote, right? So it's like you use the metrics of their argument against them. That doesn't mean you value those. You just bring it up to rub their face into it, you know.
And see, this is why I will take it as a win when we stop doing that, right? Because you're giving air to a stupid mentality, right?
I'm with you. The problem is there are as many people on our side that believe that is on their side,
and that is the issue, right? So the people on our side who are going, but you know, Princeton, you know what we should be doing is going, he went to Princeton, and that is the only bad thing about him.
Yeah, that is a right disqualifying thing. But I mean, I'll deal with it in this scenario.
All right, guys, that's all I got for today. I appreciate Don. Thanks for popping in at the perfect moment. We were literally talking artillery shells when you popped in, so we appreciate you there. Watcher, thank you for your hard work. Guys in the chat, you guys were killing it as always. Thank you for holding down your end of the bargain. Sitting here looking at 280 folks watching. Appreciate you guys for being here. If you would do me a favor, subscribe to the channel while you're here. Like the video. Make sure you share that link out there with your friends. Let them know you're getting some good stuff over here at the Council on Future Conflict. And, hey, as always, stay safe.